Did you have I had this weird feeling after we talked last time that it was like, it felt like we already knew each other, and maybe that's just because we've seen each other in content.
No, I felt the
But like,
same way. I think our
it was
personalities
weird.
just work well together. That
Yeah,
was
that
one
may
of
be
the
the
funnest
case.
podcasts, man. I was telling my wife about it. I'm like, dude, this guy's a stud. I wish we lived closer together. That was so
Yeah, I
much
know.
fun.
Like, well, yeah, we can riff on that forever. I told you before that like a lot of what you're doing with the museum and this body of work you're putting together, it's so much is like what I want to do, like these long format sort of commissions, building to something bigger that people can see in real life. And so, yeah, like I feel the same. Like I'd love to be closer and like to sort of feed off of what you're doing.
Yeah, yeah, it'd be fun. It'd be fun. So how have you been? It's been what, a month? About a month?
Yeah, I guess it has. I feel like I don't even know where I'm at in space and time. I was in Spain in February, then I came home for a few weeks, and then I went to Scotland last week or the week before that, and through Sunday, and I just feel completely disoriented. Like
Well,
speaking of, we were talking about sleep schedules and waking up. Like I'm still on Scotland time, and so I've been like waking up at 5 a.m., 4 a.m. every morning automatically.
oh, brutal, dude.
Yeah,
How was Scotland? What were you doing there?
I taught a workshop, and it was really fun. It's the Edinburgh Atelier of Fine Art, and I've been there. This is my third time there, third year in a row, and it's really fun. Like it's a great group of people. Like I love Scotland. I love the group of people there. We get a lot of repeats every year, and this year we tried to do narrative painting, which was really really fun.
Mm-hmm. Are you in the countryside or are you near some city or what?
No, in Edinburgh.
See, I don't even know. Edinburgh's obviously a pretty good sized city then.
So I think there's like two main cities. I don't know how it compares in scale to Glasgow, but I think Glasgow and Edinburgh are the two big cities in Scotland. And so it's like Harry Potter in real life. There's a castle in the middle of the town. There's like this it's called Old Town, and it's just like it's actually where J.K. Rowling wrote the first manuscript. And there's a graveyard there that has all the names of the different Harry Potter
Wow.
characters on the tombstones. Like you see like Tom Riddle, McGonagall, and there's like right behind that is like this private school that was like the inspiration for Hogwarts. So when you step into Edinburgh, like it's just like stepping into real life Harry Potter, and it's absolutely mesmerizing. And then I went up with someone after the workshop because it's so accessible. Everywhere in Europe, I think, is like this, but particularly here, where you can just take a train up into the Highlands and go see a random place. And this is kind of interesting. What's his name? The artist Millay, Everett Millay,
Yeah.
John Everett Millay, like the famous Ophelia painting
Oh, I love that
in the
painting. Yeah.
yeah.
Isn't
So
that in London?
I think it is like it's at the Tate Modern, right? I think
No, I didn't go to Tate Modern, but I did see it.
the Tate Modern had the as has Lady of Shalott or Shalot by Waterhouse. So I don't know where the
It
Millay painting
does?
is.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
why didn't I go?
Well,
Uh,
20 years ago when I went.
oh,
Yeah.
really? Because I thought Tate Modern. No, I'm not interested. I mean,
Oh my God. Yeah.
I do like modern art sometimes, but when you have limited time, it's like I'm not going to go and see a bunch of installations when I can see master. So I skipped
No, I
it.
know. But isn't the mod? But that like you always have to be careful in Europe, right? Like in Florence, for example, you have the Pitti Palace, and like there's the modern, and the modern to them is 19th century,
Oh,
right?
geez,
Like
I didn't
so.
even think of that.
Yeah, yeah. No, modern is like not Renaissance, not Baroque or Rococo. Like it's like the 19th
Oh
century.
man. Well,
So
next
like when
time.
you go to like the Pitti Palace modern, like there's like this. Do you know Antonio Chisri, like
I
and
don't.
Raffaello Sorbi? Like there are these Italian painters from the 19th century that are phenomenal. And like I had that same instinct, like where I was like, I don't want to see the modern. Like, what am I going to see here? And I walk in and I see like some of the best paintings I've ever seen in the
Ah, I
modern.
can't believe I missed a Waterhouse. Waterhouse is in easily my top 5 of dead artists.
I would say I know he's like I feel like maybe not so much now, but like in the early 2000s when I would, because like all of my like usernames for like when you have to have a username for anything,
Yeah.
like my early email, my AOL account, my AOL Instant Messenger in high school, everything was like Waterhouse. Waterhouse was my moniker for everything. And I know it's kind of like sort of, college girl, like calendar sort of artwork in some people's minds. But I think
I don't think
Waterhouse, even though I
so.
paint nothing like him, he's my absolute favorite.
Oh, he's number one for you.
He's probably I don't know.
Even
I
over
don't know. Like,
Bouguereau? I would have thought Bouguereau was your favorite.
oh yeah, for sure. Like I love Bouguereau, and I don't like to fall in that thing where it's like I like Bouguereau's technique, but I don't like, because there is something like holistic about the experience of Bouguereau that I don't like to discount by parsing out the subject matter from the technique, because that's such a like thing to do.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking about Bouguereau lately, how Bouguereau reminds me of like when I went to film school and I stepped on a landmine at the time by saying my favorite film director, who was Steven Spielberg, because it was such a cliche. He's not really my favorite director anymore, but like
It's
there's
like the
something
only
about
one I would have known. That's what I would have said,
yeah,
because
yeah.
it's the only one I know.
Oh no, like I was like, when I applied to film school, I was talking to one of the people that was in film school already, and she was like, "Who's your favorite director or whatever?" And I was like, "Oh, I like Steven." I mentioned some others, but I said Steven Spielberg, and she's like, "Don't say that," because it wasn't cool. And I feel like Bouguereau has got this thing with like because there's like this like cool sort of atelier like feel like to
Yeah.
the world right now, and like Bouguereau is like, you don't want to admit you like Bouguereau, you like anybody but him.
Oh, really? I
Like
thought it was the opposite. I'm not part of the atelier. I mean, which is so
maybe I'm
weird
not
because I
either,
have an
but
atelier, but but like
that's so funny.
the mine's. I feel like I'm not part of the. I'm gonna say traditional. I'm gonna put that in huge quotes right here, because that's a whole discussion in and of itself. But the atelier movement, the site size thing, like that particular kind of atelier, where I would assume that all they talk about is Bouguereau. But you're telling me they're like, no, Bouguereau's just not cool anymore.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I can't say like within the halls of any particular atelier now, because I haven't stepped in there. But like from just sort of peripherally, the people I talk to, like it feels like everybody's got like sort of like in any acknowledgement of Bouguereau, there's like sort of a footnote that like, but like I don't like his this, that, or the other, or potentially he worked from photographs, which I think there's really little evidence for, except for two posthumous portraits.
Right.
Whatever it is, there always seems to be some exception. Like somebody's trying to like, they'll tip their hat to a degree, but they try to step out of liking Bouguereau, and
It sounds
there's
like politics.
just
It's like those people are like, I don't like either side. Just play it safe.
yeah, I think there's definitely like that thing, like
Yeah.
where it's like hard to deny, like just he's the culmination of a lot of, he's like sort of a an amalgamation, if that's the right word, of a lot of things that we can't help but acknowledge as
Yeah.
fellow artists, sort of oriented in a similar direction. It's undeniable, but I think it seems like most conversations I have about him, people try to sort of create some exception to it. But I
Huh.
don't know, like in terms of like my own personal experience, I told you last time, like I grew up in a house where my mom had prints of Bouguereau and I loved Bouguereau. But in terms of just sort of personal inspiration and excitement, like Waterhouse was always it for me. He was always my favorite.
Yeah,
But
I
I don't know, like
agree.
I was talking in my workshop, somebody asked me, well, I was kind of working on my demo, and they were all painting, and we were kind of just conversating casually, and someone asked me who my favorite painter was. Uh, I think this is also in the tape. Is Tell me if I'm wrong. Like, because I
Well,
saw
like I
it.
said, I didn't go there, so I
Well,
couldn't
no, I
tell you.
mean like
Oh.
it might have been in the one that you went with, the Malay painting.
Oh, okay.
I can't remember because I went.
I
It
thought
was
Malay
17
was in the
years ago.
National Gallery, but I'm probably wrong about that.
I'm wondering if I went there. I can't. I can't. It was 17 years ago.
Okay.
Um, and there's the I think is De La Roche painting of Anne Boleyn about to be beheaded.
I
Do you know
don't
that painting?
remember.
So there, it's
I don't
you would
remember.
recognize it. It's close to life size. I mean, these are full figures. It's an enormous painting, and she's like got a white blindfold on. She's down like this, and you see the executioner, De
Hmm.
La Roche, Anne Boleyn. If you're googling it,
Yeah, yeah.
um,
Wait, what's the name of the
and
painting again?
I don't know the exact name, but it
Oh,
should be if you look up Anne Boleyn De La Roche, you should find it.
God, I'm the worst speller though, man. I hope Google helps me out here.
Let's see. I'm gonna look it up to.
Yeah, I spelled it too bad. It's terrible. How do you spell
Hold on,
Anne
hold
Boleyn?
on. Yeah.
I can't even spell. It's so bad.
Okay. So, oh, it's not Lady. It's not Anne Boleyn. It's Jane Grey. His other Henry's one of his other wives. So
Think I can
look up.
spell Jane Grey.
Okay, look up Lady Grey.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That I did
Grey.
see this. I did see this. All right,
Gale
I'm gonna
Roche.
pull it up here one sec.
Maybe that's in the National Gallery then.
It might be, unless I'm crazy and I actually went to the Tate Modern, but I'm
I
pretty
don't
sure
know.
we didn't. Let's see.
You're more reliable than me again.
I
17
doubt it,
years
dude.
ago.
My memory is terrible. So this is it, right?
Yeah. So I think
Yeah,
like
this
that
painting was
painting when I saw
remarkable. I remember right where it
it's
was. It was in the corner of a
unreal.
room. Oh my
It's
gosh,
massive.
it's massive. Yeah,
And
it's
it's
so
hard to,
beautiful.
you know, it's like any of these things. Like I was just in the National Gallery in Edinburgh, and like you see, like this, there's a Velasquez there, there's a number of Rubens, there's a Rembrandt, there's like these paintings, and it's like these paintings I've seen in prints, and it's like when you see them in real life, it's just shocking.
Yeah,
Um, and this painting was, you know, like that because I'd been so familiar with it, you know, for a lot of my life, and then when I saw it in person, and I don't know, it's been 17 years, but this one always stood out as one that just like floored me when I saw
oh
it.
yeah. Do you know what I
And it's funny
experienced when I
because
saw this?
what's that?
Do you ever feel this way? Where I went up to this painting. There were a couple others, but I specifically remember with this one. It's not, I can't remember if it was you that I talked to about this, but there are certain painters that it's really difficult to tell how they're doing it. I feel like this was our
Yeah,
conversation. Yeah.
we did
And
have
there are
that.
others that you can totally reverse engineer it by looking at their work. With this one, I remember looking at it and being like, I get it. I know how he's doing this. But
Oh,
then but then it's one thing to look at a painting that's already been done and reverse engineer it. But it's another thing to make all those decisions on your own. Because I remember coming home and thinking, I could paint that, but I can't paint that because it's not just the technique, it's all the other decisions that only a great artist makes. And I just, even though if I were to follow him step by step, I think I could do the exact same painting. I could have never done that painting without looking at his paint. Does that make sense?
completely,
Yeah,
completely.
and it's just
You
so frustrating. It's like, yeah, sure, now that you've told me how to do it, I could probably do it, but I could have never done it without your complete guidance and solving all the problems for me, you know?
Yeah, you know, I think that's really interesting because, hmm, you know, I don't know how related this is, but it just makes me think of this. I think there's a connection there. You know, I don't know how much master copying you do. I tend to do one or
I
two a
haven't done
year.
any.
So when you were going in, like I mentioned this last time, but I remember you talking about the period of time when you were going to, I think LA or somewhere in California and looking at
Yeah,
Rembrandts. Were you not copying them? Were you just taking notes?
just taking notes,
Interesting.
literally written notes.
So for the reason you just described, you know, they've already decoded it in whatever sort of manner of interpretation they follow, like be it a Bouguereau, be it a Waterhouse. And I have a copy of a Waterhouse in the other room that I did, and it's yeah, I really love it because it was of. Do you say Lady of Shalott or Shalott? I don't really know what you're supposed
I've
to say,
said
but
shallot, but I don't know. Yeah.
yeah, let's go with Shalott. We'll unite on that one. Um, and I did a study of her portrait, it's one of the master copies that I've done that I love the most. But you know, they always seem easier to me because they sort of decoded it. The Bouguereaus I've done, they're just far
Exactly.
easier. And
Yeah.
so I did this thing once. I remember I started doing this when I was studying with Jacob Collins, actually. And when I studied there, I remember there was some period of time when he, in his studio at the time in his house, he had a number of, he had a lot of paintings hanging around, but there was a drawing he had, and I pulled it off the frame off the wall. He didn't mind, and I did a copy of it, the drawing, and then that kind of like ignited in me this notion of anytime I was looking at the model in front of me, and it just seemed so overwhelming. There was so much beauty in what I was observing, and so many effects, so many phenomenon that I didn't really know how to find the essentials. I started conjuring in my mind, and this was helped by the fact that he was painting paintings, in the room almost continuously while I studied there. I started simulating in my mind a Jacob Collins version of painting of what I was about to paint. So if I was going to do this torso, this leg, this arm, I would in my mind summon a simulation of what a painting done by him would look like of this a particular model, from this vantage point.
Mm-hmm.
And I started from my imagination, I would generate this in my mind, and I would do almost like a master copy of this imagined version of the model painted by Jacob, if that makes any sense. I
It
don't know if I'm
totally does.
phrasing
You're
that
just
well.
trying to channel Jacob, basically.
Channel, but like see in my mind's eye. Like I believe
Right.
so much in like this, like I mentioned this last time. I believe so much in this like hologram that you generate
Right.
and that you're painting from that. And I was trying to do that. And that made it so surmountable. I was like, oh, well, of course he would paint it like this, or he would progress to the form like this, or he would see this as essential and this not as essential. He would follow this path, not that path, right? He would see this holistic form and then build into that these other ones. Whatever it was, that made it more coherent, more approachable to me. That over time, just gradually, and obviously there are a lot of variations throughout whatever time period, but it slowly became me simulating how I would paint it. So I see this now, and I do it more and more as I paint more from imagination. But this was a skill to whatever degree I'm able to implement or execute it. It's something that happened over time where I more and more was able in my mind's eye to see the things I hadn't painted yet, how I would eventually paint them. Right. So it was almost like I had a painted version in my mind that I could follow, and it made it far more approachable. And what it also did was in relationship to the methodology I practice, or the process that people see in my videos, is that it's why I'm perfectly comfortable with this sort of like finish as you go. I'm only in this area and I don't have this context yet, because in my mind's eye I see that forehead painted even if it's not there yet.
Really? So is it sort of like a photographic memory, but
No,
but you're but you're coming up with the images on your own in your head?
well, I don't want to misrepresent it. I don't think it's anything like a photographic memory, which I don't even know how real or not real that is.
I don't
I have a
either. I
decent
can't
memory.
fathom it. Yeah.
I don't know. Like I almost feel like that's mischaracterized in the way we talk about it, but I have not done any there's like
Right.
that, what is it? The
Right.
didactic memory. I don't know. I don't know much about that. I don't want to misrepresent it. Like it's this perfectly lucid, like I can see it, but
Right.
it's like a version of that. It's like, it's something, like how you visualize something. Like I close my eyes and I visualize someone I know. I
Well,
visualize my
that's the
son right now.
thing
And I can
is
see
I
his,
don't know how you visualize. Because
right.
there's a woman who studies with me who is brilliant, and she's on the spectrum.
Mm,
And I wouldn't say she's savant, kind of like Rain Man. It's not like that. She's very, very low on the spectrum. And but she's brilliant. I mean, we always go to her, and I always go to her if I have questions about anything. I'm like, okay, Sam, tell me what you know about X, and she can just recall all this information. But what's interesting about her is she can't visualize things at all. We were just talking about this yesterday. She's like, I literally can't picture anything in my head. And she said, even when she's doing a still life from life, which she's doing right now, she says from the time she looks at it to the time she rotates her head to the canvas, she loses the image. She can't hang on to it for even a second,
wow. Hmm.
which is
That's
so interesting.
interesting.
And I've met other people like that. I know even with my wife, for example, who's also a very intelligent person, when we talk about how to decorate, I'm putting an addition on the house or I'm building a shed or whatever, and I try and describe it to her, she's like, forget it. I don't know what you're saying. Or I'll tell her the walls are going to be this color. I can't visualize that. And then I do it. She's like, "Oh, that's beautiful."
Yeah, yeah.
And but then I've met other people who can just totally create, like myself, I can engineer things in my head. Put parts together, imagine their shape and size, and sort of assemble it in my head before I start sketching it.
Hmm.
So I think everyone's sort of different. There's kind of a spectrum on that visualization. So at least that's my impression based on the people I know and have had this discussion with. So I kind of wonder, it makes me curious of just how clearly you are visualizing these things. It sounds like what you're describing is exactly how I would, where it's this almost like picture your mother right now, your mother's face. When's the last time you saw your mother? Oh, she passed.
Yes, it's fun. Yeah, no.
Okay. Okay. It
So
was 12
yeah,
years ago.
12
I
years.
remember.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, there you
Um,
go.
so picture her face. Like you could
Yeah.
probably get a loose picture, but it's probably a little
Yeah,
cloudy, a little rough, right?
that's kind of funny because like this kind of like pivots the conversation. So we'll recenter it. But like, it is funny when you deal with memories of people that you lost so long ago. I will tell you this. I remember
But
her.
you have photographs of her though. So it's
No,
not
that's what
really
I'm
as though
saying.
she's gone.
That's what I'm saying is like, how much am I remembering the photographs that I've last seen or that I've revisited,
Right.
you know? And it's like a lot of what I generate seems to come from that. And so sometimes I'll try to like generate, like, I'll pick an environment that I don't have I don't have a memory of a photograph taken of her in this environment. And I try to picture her in that environment, like the front yard at their house.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I don't remember her in a photograph from that environment. And so I try to like see how much I can summon a memory of her from an environment I don't recall a photograph, because I wonder how much is sort of compiled from these photographs. I think about that with childhood memories because I'm 44 and we got a camcorder, you know, from when I was in like 1985 or 6. So I was very little. And it's like, I don't know how much, there's so many memories that I'm like, oh, wait, there was a video of that. Like, it feels
Right.
like an
Right.
authentic memory, but I think it's a memory of the video. But I will tell you, the memory, this is so weird and kind of sad, but I hold on to it. And it was a really heartbreaking moment when it changed for me, actually, is I remember because my dad ended up taking over the cell phone plan and all of that. And so it eventually changed. But there was a long time after her death that the voicemail of her saying her
Cool.
name and leave a message. And I can still hear with like as close to like pitch perfect like memory, like her saying, you know,
Oh,
her
that's
name,
really
leave a message.
beautiful and sad
And
at
I
the same
played that.
time.
It's a weird thing, but like
Yeah.
that, and I can, and there's another little thing that I can hear her saying from a certain memory in their kitchen. But it is funny how that voicemail like thing, like, it's weird because it
Yeah.
ends up being the thing you hear all the time because you call them all the time and they don't pick up for whatever reason, and you log like 1,000 memories of that, and that's the one that plays with perfect clarity in my memory
How
of
long
her
has it
voice.
been since you've heard it?
I haven't. It probably. I'm going to guess maybe it endured for another 2 or 3 years after her passing. So it's been at least 9 years since I heard
And you
it.
still remember it clear as day.
I would say that it like triggers the feeling of hearing it perfectly, like outside of like actually hearing it.
That's
Like
wild. Memory's so
yeah.
strange. Well,
But you know, as far as
what about your
go ahead.
wife? Picture your wife. So here's the
Ex-wife,
thing.
by the way. Sorry, like not to dump a bunch of like life trauma on
No,
you.
no, no. That was great. But picture your. I mean, I'm the idiot. I'm the one who picked your mom of all people. But picture your wife. And so if I picture my wife, I just saw her a couple hours ago. I feel like I can picture her like a photograph in my face. I mean, not in my face, like a photograph of her face. I feel like I can picture it perfectly, but I know for a fact because portraits are so, I mean, a millimeter off in any direction, in any plane, and it starts to not look like the person, right? So even though I feel like I have this clear vision, I have tried to draw her from memory, and I can never quite nail it. You know, it's tricky. I mean, but in my head, I feel like I can see her like a photograph. It's so perfect. I could describe every feature, but to draw her from memory, I can't quite nail it because you got to be so precise to hit a likeness.
Yeah, it's so interesting. So
Yeah.
I don't know that I have the most coherent response to that, but I think it's fascinating because I think at the core of this, and you said it right away when like I kind of was riffing on this visualization thing, and then you're like, but that's just it. I don't know what you see, and it's like we're trying so hard to interface. Presumably, we have like assuming like there isn't like one deficit or another or one advantage over another. Like anatomically, we're aligned enough to where we can have coherent conversations about phenomenological experience,
Right,
right?
right.
But that being said, like I don't know the resolution of your visualization. You mentioned a person in your program who says they don't visualize. So I've met a lot of people too as well that I've worked with, in this context where it's like they describe to me experiences that feel or sound different than my own. So we don't really know. Now, I will say this as a way of illuminating the resolution, I guess, of that visualization. Um, uh, so my ex-wife, I still see her all the time, so there is an ability to
Wait a minute,
summon
wait a
her.
minute, wait a minute. Did I
Yeah,
just,
yeah.
did I,
It's all right. No, no,
that's
it's okay. I
two.
don't.
That's
No, no,
two.
no. It's all right. It's all right. It's all right. It's all right.
I am the worst host in the
No,
world.
no, 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 no. How would you know? How would you know? So,
Oh,
but I see her all
shoot.
the time. But I'll
Okay.
use my daughter as an example
Okay.
because I drove her to school this morning. So she was sitting next to me. So I could summon her image in my mind right now to the degree that I could explain her features, her proportional relationships to whatever degree I'd be able to measure that visually. Like I could describe her very coherently.
Right.
I don't know that I could, as someone who I think, in my hubris, I can paint a face from imagination. I can show you ones I painted from imagination. I have enough templates that
Right.
I can do a permutation of facial features from my experience that looks like a realistic face. I could not, I could do a painting of her if she were seated in front of me right now that would look like her. I could not do a painting of her that would look just like her, or even maybe not even close to her from the visual I have.
Yeah.
So I will say that the visual is like significantly lower resolution. So I don't know what it's akin to. It's almost hard to describe it, right? It's
It
like,
is.
it's hard to describe what that visualization is. Um, but it feels like something, it feels ethereal. It feels like a mirage. It's not lucid. It's not, I don't know what
Yeah,
it
it doesn't
is.
feel like a picture, even though it feels personal and accurate and reliable. At the same time, it's not a photograph. It's not a picture. It's not a clear picture. It is really hard to describe. But I wonder
Well,
if
let me
there are
ask you,
people like Kim Jong-gi. You remember Kim Jong-gi? He passed
yeah,
recently.
I mean, that, yeah,
I wonder if he
that's
just
he's a
pictures
good person.
things
You know, hmm.
or did picture things.
Okay, so do you, okay. I almost wonder with him, like, because I can't do what he did.
Yeah,
There's a
I don't think very many
part
people
of me
can.
that can do some version of that, like not as good, but I can tap into that. Like I can do that. Like I'm in the realm of people that can kind of do that. I couldn't do it like him. But I will say, like, I can do something like that. And I probably could do it with oil painting. His medium like is like unfathomable and so like such a hard commitment because like I can
Hmm.
I can shovel in some titanium white and cover things up. Like his was
Yeah,
it's
you're
like
in.
water.
There's no
You're in.
eraser.
You're like he's like okay, like the hands on the handlebar and like the headlights here, and then like this entire girl's body's, and it's like
And then it all
that was
connects in the
crazy.
middle somewhere.
Totally.
Yeah, it's
So like,
crazy.
but like I'm in the category of people that could potentially do a thing like that. So I get it on some level. There's a part of me that's like, I assume he had a lot of templates. He had a lot of things, like a lot of muscle memory, and he was doing a lot of things he's drawn a lot of times. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he
I
could
think you're
just like,
probably right. He's
and
developed
then I
some
also,
sort of formulas for solving certain
I,
problems.
right. And like formula, like with a certain latitude, like a conceptual latitude,
Of
not just like a
course, of
formula, like
course.
a rigid formula. And I think too, like he, I think he discovered the logic and the rules as you go. I don't, I'm sure it was sort of metabolized intellectually and it was like intuitive when we were seeing those like amazing videos that he would do. But I think that there probably was a rationale in the background, like, okay, I did this and this is going to be in front of this, right? And like there was a sequence built around that. But I also think too, like, um, I'm going to imagine, I don't know if this is the case. I think there was some discovery along the way. I don't think like girl on motorbike as just an idea, right? Or
Hmm.
mech suit or whatever it is. I don't know that he had like a thing that was perfectly lucid in his mind that he was copying. I think there was a gist and there were parameters and there was experience and sort of rules that he could employ and discover in a way that like added up correctly.
Yeah.
Compared to like a perfect like visual that it was like so lucid in his mind's eye that he was copying one for one. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think that he discovered it as he went and he stayed within certain guidelines because he probably had like been burned on these a number of times to where it didn't work out and this overlapped this and he had this mark there. But I do think like that added fact, like I've done paintings. I don't know if you've ever seen these. I've done ones like form modeling paintings where I do it with no drawing and I just start in an eye and I go out and migrate to the nose and I finish as I go.
Hmm.
And I can only do that on a few things. And it's like really like pointless and just a silly sort of exercise and whatever. But I will say uh, that I had tried that thing a number of times and just got completely burned on it and like just completely
Yeah, me
like
too.
unraveled. And
He
the things that
humbled
make
me
it in
something
videos,
awful.
what's
He
that?
humbled me something awful when I discovered
Oh
him.
my God. Oh, and the other point I was going to make about it is when I would do that, I always could put like cover up my mistakes and sort of like as I went along, like fudge it. Him doing it with marker, I don't know. That to me is like a level that I can't fathom.
Yeah, because even if he had photo reference and this thing was all laid out in front of him, well, let's say I was doing what he's
Do you
doing,
think
and
he was? I got the sense he was making it up.
no,
Am I
no, I'm
wrong?
saying he is making it up. But what I'm
Yeah.
saying is, even if he had it laid out, if he had a layout, let's say he put together this whole montage in Photoshop first. Even then, if I were to do that with the reference, I still couldn't just start a head over here on the left and a handlebar over here on the right and have it meet together. I still would have to do rough lay-in lines and probably erase a little bit. But so even from observation, it's honestly, if he were to do it from observation, it's almost more crazy.
Oh, really?
Well, I don't know
No, I
because
kind of see that.
the way he just bounces around, it all lines up. You'd have to be seriously good at visualizing measurements without
That's
messing it up.
interesting because are you saying that if he were conceptual, if he's inventing it, like he can adhere to like an intuitive sense of proportions,
Yes.
whereas if he's doing, that's interesting.
And
You
there's
know
some
that,
leeway, like
yeah,
because let's say he got the girl on the bike and he puts the handlebars in first and then he starts with the head. Well, maybe the head's a little too far forward. Well, he accounts for that by making her arched a little more, right? But if he were copying it,
yeah.
he would have to nail down to the millimeter every proportion and have it come together seamlessly.
Is there,
I don't know which would
this
be
is just,
harder, honestly. Either way, it's crazy. Like either way, I couldn't do it.
there's this guy, and it's a totally different thing, and it's interesting because like I don't I don't pretend to know anything about uh, autism or the spectrum and sort of variations and permutations of any number of traits. But you had mentioned that there was a person in your program that on a mild end of the spectrum, but is a database of knowledge, and they just inventory differently than typical people that you might sort of talk to. And then on the other end, there's this sort of purported lack of visualization. And it's interesting because I wonder if he maybe just is tapped into something like some aggregate of like traits that like maybe we just can't fathom and touch into as much as I think I have some of that ability. Maybe it's so far beyond what I can comprehend. And I think about this guy, his name is anybody who's interested. There's this artist uh, named, the Instagram account is Drawings by Trent, I think. Have you heard of this?
I think I follow this person. I'm gonna pull it up.
Yeah, he's autistic, but like he's a pretty significant case of autism. Like he's nonverbal for the most part.
Okay.
Let me see, make sure I'm telling you the wrong one. Yeah, Drawings by Trent.
All right, I'll pull
Drawings
it
by
up.
Trent.
Go ahead and finish your
Trent.
thought while I'm pulling it up.
So I've been following him for a while, and his family essentially records these videos, and he's highly autistic. As far as I can tell, he's nonverbal to a large degree,
Mm-hmm.
and he does these drawings where his parents will read off like requests from people, like do an alligator with an umbrella with a raccoon or something like that, and they're cartoony, very cartoony. But he does them with a marker. He does them with a Sharpie, so it's full commitment. There's no sketch, and it's
Okay.
cartoony, and he will draw like a claw. Then he'll know that he has to draw this part of the stomach. Then he has to draw this elbow, and then this part of the. Like he does it. He'll move to different parts with a sense of what has to overlap what and what needs to be done in whatever order without a sketch, and it'll be cartoony. And it's something that to me, and again, they're very cartoony, but he draws it in this way. Like you'll see that he goes to different portions. He'll draw one portion, and then another portion. I don't know if this one will represent it well, but it's really fascinating when you watch his videos. He picks out what parts and he has like a visual of the stack ahead of time. And to me, I'm like, okay, where is that coming from? Like, is that coming from a lucid,
It's
clear
actually
visual?
really impressive
It's insane. You guys should watch more of his content.
because that's
But I
three
think that,
that's three-quarter view of that monkey head,
yes,
and he
and
just
look how
did
he
it
did,
in a fraction of a second.
and he saw where that next character was going to go and how they were going to overlap.
What are
So
they
I think that,
doing? What is
right, watch his videos, and I think that like it speaks to some kind of collection of traits that might be there. Like let's say in some of the other artists that we know that do this, like they might have something of this. Like so, for I would say, for example, even though I can finish as I go and I can work from my imagination and any number of things, and I can model form when I have someone in front of me, like without a reference drawing, and I can parse out proportions. I'm pretty good at like judging proportions, like contextually as I build out. I don't know that I would be able to anticipate exactly how this arm was going to fold into this other one and how this was going to be there and how I had to draw this first thing in anticipation of the second thing that I hadn't drawn yet. So I think there's something there that is like pretty profound to how some people visualize that I don't
I
think
think
I
you're
tap
right.
into.
Yeah, it's remarkable. Dude, this guy would tear it up in a Pictionary game show.
Holy crap. Yeah, yeah, no, exactly.
Could you imagine competing with him?
Yeah, yeah.
Whew, that wouldn't be pretty. I don't know about you, but people always think that I should be on their team with Pictionary. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. That's not the kind of art that I do. I don't draw
Oh,
fast little things that well.
I don't want to brag, but I am really good at Pictionary.
I'm good. You know what's weird? I'm better at guessing. I'm the king of guessing.
Oh, really? I
Yeah.
probably worse at that, but I definitely think I'm like, I think like I have something that like gives me like not just because I like again like I understand what you're saying. It's like you and I are like we pace ourselves differently, but
Right.
I feel like in Pictionary I'm like first of all I'm super competitive, so I'm like it's go time and like I have a reputation on the line here, so I don't
That's
mess around.
hilarious. That's funny. Well, yeah, this is really interesting. We could talk about this for hours. It's crazy how the brain works and or
Can I ask
doesn't
you a
work.
question? I know it's your show, but I had something on my mind. I don't know if
Yeah, yeah,
you
sure.
are
What's up?
interested. So I was thinking about you and our conversation and some of the conversations we had about working from photography and there's AI and I don't want to go down the AI road unless you want to, but because we did a lot of that. But although I had some funny things come up recently about it that were interesting. But
Well, now you got to share that, but go ahead with your
yeah,
question.
all right.
Yeah, go ahead with your
But
question first.
as far as the photography thing, and I don't know your full history. I know some of the stuff you've talked about, and so I know your work from like the 2000s, which was different, and then you went into your work in like the 2010s, and then into now and everything. And I know that I think if correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know this. I'm guessing that your work in the 2000s was at least in part from photography,
Yes.
and then you pivoted towards working only from life. And when you went into a lot of your early big narrative Jesus or Life of Christ paintings, they were from exclusively from life. So maybe like a 10-year period. And then in the COVID era, you had to pivot because of what we talked about and what
That's
you described
exactly
in that
right.
video.
It was 2008 that I stopped working from photos. So for 6
Okay.
years I worked from photos. I did a whole mess of paintings during that 6 years. And then I went
So, and it's
14
funny because
years.
that folder I sent you, this is so funny because sent you that folder last time, and there's a painting in there that was directly inspired when I was like, I got to get in the
Wait.
gallery
What
world.
folder did you send me? What are you talking
I
about?
sent it to you last time. Like there was like there's a painting in there. I did it my ex-wife with the sunglasses on, and she had a cigarette, and like I was trying to be like this classical training paired with like a contemporary thing, and I was basically trying to be you with a
Really?
painting I did. Yeah, back in like
Dude, that's
2008 or something
flattering,
like
man.
that.
That's so
No, I
flattering.
was like, this is what I'm supposed to do to like kind
You're
of
too
be like.
humble, dude. You're too humble. I was surprised you even heard of me. That's awesome.
No, of course I told you that I didn't put it together because your work transformed so much. And I think it's part of this conversation because it's interesting because I think there are attributes like when we see when we talk about paintings done from photography that are not great or could be improved,
Right.
there are people that basically paint a lot of photographic effects or distortions without sort of overriding that with a conceptual know-how.
Right.
And there's certain earmarks for that when we look at a painting. And it's interesting because I was thinking about your work, and it's like if I didn't know this from your podcast, if I didn't know this from conversations even that we had last time,
Yeah.
I would have no idea from 2008 to like when you started working from life, that body of work to now. I can't tell, and I think like that's an interesting thing because I think there is a case that some might make that when you work from photography, it has an outcome. And do you feel like you conceptualize your way out of any kind of
100%.
photographic work?
I've always said, and I don't mean this to sound cocky, but I've always said that it's nonsense that working from photos means your paintings have to look like they're from photos. I just don't. I mean, they do if you're not trained and if you're not trying to go above and beyond the photograph. But I remember there was a dealer, or not a dealer, but Vern Swanson, who was the director of the Springville Art Museum here in Utah, way back 10, 15, 20 years ago. I don't remember. He made the statement that he can always tell if a painting is done from a photo. And I took it as a personal challenge. So I gave him 2 paintings. Said, which one of these is done from a photo? He had no idea. And I
Yeah.
said, I've told you, you can't always tell. You can't. And because for me personally, I'm trying to imagine what it looks like when it's not a photo. That's how I work. And so, I'm glad you said that. That's what I'm shooting for, is to not make it look like it's from photos.
I mean, I would never be able to tell. And I'm actually curious, like if you have, like, like, for example, like there's like a, you know, a few things like I could mention that I deliberately like look for. Are there things that you are conscious of that you override, or do you think you're just sort of intuitively, like you're kind of falling back more into your experience from working from life, and that just sort of naturally overrides the photographic attributes?
Honestly, I would say it can't be that, because I didn't work from life until 2008, and I even challenged Vern before I started working from life for 14 years. I think it's that even when I mean, I did work a little bit from life back before 2008, but I mean, it wasn't my common everyday practice. I think what it is even when I'm working from life, I'm not copying. So if I were to paint your portrait, I would look at you, of course, for your proportions and to understand the direction of the light and map out those shapes that the light, reveals. But that's it. But then from that point on, I'm improvising on flesh tones. I'm improvising on the intensity of the values, whether it be light or dark, and just trying to make it feel the way it should look. That's kind of always the way I've tried to paint. I mean, sometimes I'm less successful, but flesh tones especially, for me, flesh is always this experiment. It's just throwing color around and trying to make it trying to make it more lifelike than it is, even in life. That's always my goal. And so when I work from photos, it doesn't, the color information certainly doesn't come through, because I don't even look at the color from life that much. And then, I mean, I do for inspiration, but then I edit,
How do you like? Do you like because I think I'm similar. Like well, first of all, I have I think I have a lot of habits that I just repeat on my palette. Like I trust my palette a lot. I have like 6 core colors that I augment with between 2 or 4 additional ones, depending on the scenario and for certain purposes. I have a pretty simple palette. I have a lot of muscle memory with it. And I think that has just, I've also just never had color anxiety. Like, I don't know about you, but when I teach, like, I think that seems to be the #1 topic. I think you and I would both agree that like people need to shift drawing to the sort of top of that list. But I've always like, and I think maybe my artwork suffers for it, but I think I've personally benefited from like, you know how like there's certain people like sociopaths that have like incredibly low anxiety, and so they can deal with certain scenarios. I'm the opposite of that in most realms. Like I'm totally neurotic and like freak out about everything.
Same.
But I have psychopathically low color anxiety, and I think I benefit from it. Like
I am the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way. I don't stress
and it's
about
a benefit, right? Like we are not paralyzed. I'm like, whatever, like I'll make it work in the painting. I don't care if it doesn't match that.
I've been doing Jeff's online mentorship program for about a year now, and it is awesome. Everything is online, super streamlined. If you can be there, I mean, you have the ability to talk to him once a week and he can review your work and help you. If you can't be there, it's pre-recorded. You can go back and even re-watch things if you missed something during class or couldn't be there. So the online portion of it is almost better than real life because you can always go back to it, which is awesome. The demos are recorded. It's just like all available whenever you need it. And I'm a stay-at-home mom of 4 and my time is limited and it's also very interrupted. And so to be able to go back has been clutch for me. And you get to work with Jeff HEIN, who's awesome. He's tough. The assignments are simple, but difficult, and they're difficult to make us all better. And he's able to give us these assignments, coach us through it, help us stay excited to progress. And so it's just been a great experience. I am so grateful that he has been willing to take time away from his own art to offer all of us to have it. So if you're thinking about doing it, it's amazing.
To learn more about how you could have me as a personal mentor, check out the link to HEINatelier.com in the show notes or video description.
Exactly. That's exactly how I feel. And the only, I wouldn't call it anxiety, but the only challenge that I give myself, I sort of already talked about it, is just not, it's not, well, let me put it this way. It's not as though I approach a portrait and say, God, I've got this thing down. I'm not even worried about it. And I don't think that's what you're saying. But just to be clear to anyone who hears this, that's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is I know that I don't have to make it look the same color in order to make it look like it breathes. So it
Yeah.
allows me to have fun. And I could take a portrait of you and just decide to make it green or purpley. But as long as I get the relationships right, where it's a little warmer in this zone and cooler in that zone, it's going to work. Doesn't matter. And of course it has to work with the background. You know, the background might, if I make it a green head and the background's the wrong color, it's going to look more green. You know, all those things,
Yeah.
you know, come into it. But for me, color is the fun part. That's the part where I can just play and not have to really, yeah, it just doesn't feel as much like work. Shapes, which is drawing, that still feels like work after all these years. It's
Really?
just,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's not that, I mean, obviously I'm getting more comfortable with it. I should be anyway, getting more comfortable with it over the years. But it always feels more like a task, more like problem solving in a mechanical sort of academic way, whereas
Yeah, I
problem
get that.
solving with color feels more free, loose, artistic, for lack of a better word right now to me.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I
artistic's not the
feel
right word. Feels more expressive than just capturing proportion. Proportion is like, okay, here's an analogy. I used to be a handyman, so I've refinished basements, built all kinds of stuff, and I remember learning the hard way because when I was first doing it, I framed a little crooked in one area on a basement remodel, and then when I went to drywall it, I paid for it, you know, and I had to pull the drywall off and reframe that little area.
Mhm.
To
Yeah.
me, drawing is like the framing. You got to get the framing right. But then once you get the framing right and you put the drywall on straight and you tape it straight and everything's good, then the drawing is done. Now you get to pick the colors and hang the curtains and decorate. To me, that's the color portion, where I get to take this thing that I've already established, solid structure, solid form, and now I can, this makes it sound so not sophisticated at all, but now I can decorate it, right? Now I can really play and have fun. That's kind of how it
Yeah.
feels a little bit. Maybe that's not a great analogy.
No, I love it. I'm smiling because it makes me think of like, so now I don't care. Like, I mean, maybe I do, but more than I think. But like, you know, I've been doing this long enough, and it's like nobody in my personal life cares. So it's like I'm long past trying to impress anyone that I actually interact with on a regular basis. But I remember early on, I kind of had a chip on my shoulder. I was this artist. I thought I was super talented and all of these things. And it was before I'd accomplished anything. We're talking like,
Why
my
is it we're
20.
always like that when we're young? I was the
I
same
don't
way.
know. Well, I definitely felt like I had a lot to prove, and it was
Yeah.
like, it's talking to my and I love him, and like my sister, she's in finance, and her husband, my brother-in-law, he's an executive at whatever company, so different world. And I feel like early on there was a sense that like nobody said this to me, everybody was supportive of me and my family. This was in my head, but like it was like I had to prove myself to them. And I remember him talking to me, and he was like, "Hey, guy," like he was trying to like, you know trying to like connect or whatever. He was showing an interest. And I remember him just being like, so basically like what you do, it's kind of like, you draw it all out. And then the painting's like basically like putting makeup on someone.
Oh, yeah. I'm glad you
And
brought
I
that
was
up
like,
because I was
well,
gonna
kind of. It's
because
kind
I
of
was
like
gonna
that.
make a disclaimer. And my disclaimer is it all happens at the same time.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
That analogy is not a perfect analogy because you don't frame a house and decorate it at the same time. But when I'm
Right.
painting and drawing, I'm painting and drawing at the same time. It's just that there's this sense of academic effort and angst judging the proportion, but fun and excitement judging the color. But it's all the same stroke, so it's all, I don't know. Maybe,
Well, okay.
maybe I'm going to regret saying all this, and I'm going to paint today and be
No.
like, that's actually not how it feels at all.
Well, I think that we're, we're trying to interpret, so much of what we do in the studio is intuitive, and then we try
Right.
to analyze it and sort of put it together in a way that we can explain it to someone else so that they can, orient towards whatever they're trying to, get to. But I think that, okay, so I'll bring this into the conversation and see if there's something, related here. But like, I feel like I heard you say at some point, and I think that, and just I could be getting this completely wrong, but I feel like I remember you saying at some point that um, drawing was so important that you would return people to those fundamentals, and that there was a sense that they needed to master that before they graduated to the other things.
Yeah,
And
that's
I
true.
think you just said essentially that you would, if you had problems that were fundamental, you would return back to the just completely back to the drawing stage.
Mm-hmm.
And I have this thing that has sort of emerged because I, of course, come from that atelier world. I taught at GCA for a long time, and there was a format to that teaching. And of course, these things are sort of pedagogical, and you master drawing, and you do these projects, and you slowly progress towards um, you progress towards the more complex things in painting and painting in full color over time, with the premise being that you master to whatever degree those things that come before drawing being.
Mm-hmm.
I've had this experience teaching online over the last 12 years where I adapt to a lot of different people and a lot of different goals and people with different backgrounds and sort of time commitments. I have seen a few things that kind of shatter a little bit of what I thought to be true in teaching in the atelier world. And number one is I no longer at this point feel like mastering drawing is necessary before progressing to painting. And I made a video about this on YouTube about
Interesting.
feedback loops. So I made this
Okay.
video about feedback loops where so one of the things, let me give you a little snippet of a technique that I employ in a lot of my painting,
Okay.
right, myself,
Okay.
is let's say I'm modeling this cheek, right? And this cheek right here has a contour, right? Like
Yeah.
compared to this cheek, like the edges with my ear and other
Yeah.
ambiguous things, right?
Yeah.
So over here, I'm modeling this cheek.
Okay.
Now I have a linear block in that, let's hope, is within some reasonable margin of error. Like I didn't draw the line out here and I didn't draw it in here, right?
Okay.
So it's like reasonably within a couple millimeters, right? So let's say the mandate is that your drawing is close enough. It's within a couple millimeters.
Yeah.
But when I'm painting this interior form, when I'm modeling it, even in the technique that you might see in some of my videos where I finish as I go and I model out from the lightmost facing point around the form, etc. I also mix up a temporary placeholder value for the background for the purpose of shaping, not for the value relationship necessarily between the background and the interior form, which is helpful. That context is helpful, but it's more to shape the convexities, the overlaps, the intersection, the tilt changes, the planar aspects, whatever it is, the aspects of the contour while in the same session, while I'm modeling the interior form, because I feel like there's just an inseparable connection between a contour edge, the shaping of that contour edge, its convexities, its planar aspect, whatever it is, and the interior progression of values, meaning the rate of gradation that I might have from here to here is a reflective of a curve no different than this. And they're both forms. So there's linear form.
Totally
and there's
agree with that. Yeah.
form. And so I guess I feel like there's this thing where you do a drawing up to the degree that you can assess its accuracy in a linear format. And you think it's right, and you've exhausted all of your tools, all of your analytical tools, your comparative measurements, your shape analysis, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now you transfer it, and now you paint it, and now you have to reconcile that by going in and accounting for every form. And there's something that I think I can't teach this way. I can't teach this way for whatever psychological or insecurities I have as a teacher, and I feel like I have to explain everything when it comes up. Jacob, at the time, 20 years ago, was so good at sort of giving you a very limited thing of what you needed at that time, even if it was a lie, or not a lie, but like a sort of a very narrow set of problem solving skills or point of view.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had this thing where you would block in and you would try to make it as accurate as you could. And then when you modeled it, you weren't allowed to change the drawing. And so if you encountered something that was proportionally inaccurate, like this is too wide, this is like too high, or whatever it is, you had to make it look, you had to sell it, like you had to model
Why?
it.
What was
Now,
the reasoning?
Well, part of that was that I don't know, Jacob, this is my interpretation of why that seemed to be this sort of perspective at that time, at least my interpretation of it. And I think one part of it was that it was almost good that you encountered those scenarios where there wasn't a 1-for-1 visual match, that you now realize that you drew a thing that's too wide and too whatever it is, like proportionally inaccurate, and then you had to make it real regardless, right? So you had to take whatever you saw there, the rules, the parameters, the light effect, and the surface, and then you had to transpose that into the parameters that you drew. I also think it was partly that.
Wait a minute, let me back up here. So he perceived that as a more valuable skill than hitting a perfect likeness. I mean,
I don't know that he always explained it that way, or that he explained.
But this is how you're interpreting it.
Well, I know that we weren't allowed at the time I was there. We were not, from my memory, we were not allowed to change it. Like, you did the block in. Your responsibility in the block in phase was to get it as accurate as possible. If you didn't, you model the hell out of it and you make it as good as you possibly can within that framework. Because on the other end of that was the pain and agony of 4 weeks, or let's say after the block in was half of a week, 3.5 weeks or 3 weeks of modeling something that you drew poorly meant that the next block in, you were more likely to get
now,
right.
That makes more sense. That's what I was wondering. If he's more
I think
punishing you for not hitting it.
I think so. I think so, because here's this interesting format. This is not, I don't know how GCA is now, but GCA was not like this when I taught there. So this is pre-GCA. We did this thing where you would just come in and you would do cast drawings. We didn't do bar drawings at the time or anything, right? Like, you would just do a cast drawing, and the instruction was make it perfect, right? And so you do this cast drawing. Now, granted, you have other people around you doing the same thing, so you sort of absorb that osmosis. And you do this cast drawing that you think is perfect. And from my own experience, I showed him after a month and a half, not knowing what I was doing, not getting any instruction. And I showed him, and I was like, it was like the mouth of David or whatever. And he's like, "You're not done." And he walked away, and I spent another 2 months, and so.
Whoa, like, wait, are you exaggerating?
Yeah, not a lot, if I am. Like, that's my memory of it, but like it's within that. Like that is a fairly accurate 20 years on characterization of it.
Okay.
So you do that, and I lost the train of thought. What were we on before that?
I think the last point that maybe this will help you. Okay, go ahead.
No, I remember what it was. So you do this cast drawing, and I remember, like, this is an approximation, but the only thing that would be different about this would be the exact number. I seem to remember you come in. And the morning session was like your core session. In the afternoon, everybody worked from the model. The morning session was like where you are in the program at the time. So you do cast drawing, make it perfect. Cast drawing, make it perfect. Cast drawing, make it perfect. I think it was 3.
Okay.
And then what you do is you switch to this intensive block-in practice, like 6-7 weeks. And all you do is like a block-in a day with like 1-for-1 accuracy
from a live model. Oh, a cast.
From a cast. So we called tippy cast, because we would tip them in different directions so you could get different angles of, like, like an ear cast. You could tip it this way, tip it that way on a platform. And so you would do this, and it was like, I remember doing my notepad like sequentially, like I had just a drawing pad, and I just do page after page every day. And I
was
it
like comparative measuring?
Comparative measuring.
No sight size.
Nothing
okay.
Like that. No. Shapes, tilts, comparative measuring. And even measuring was so minimal at that time. I mean, I would say like a halfway point, maybe a height to width, but it was mostly shapes and tilts.
And you would just do these how I teach. Yeah.
But you're doing it in the context of having modeled them all. So, like, I would say that that feedback that kind of taught me early on, and it came back later in my teaching when I started teaching online, that the way you model form, the way you see form, the way you see proportions, the way you judge distances and relationships fundamentally changes when you account for it as form, right? So if I'm like tilt, and then I'm looking at the pitch difference with this tilt, and then I'm looking at this width compared to this height, and I'm looking at this tilt, and then I'm seeing this as an abstract shape interlocking with this shape.
Right.
That's a way of, that gets you pretty far. Like, that's a good, solid way to draw accurately within a margin of error.
Right.
But to really account for where things belong, modeling form is, for me, the best, like, sort of hidden sort of drawing skill builder imaginable. And so I don't like to prolong people modeling form. I don't like to keep them only in block-in mode. I think the most significant maturation, or whatever the word might be, like, way to develop like block-in skills is actually hidden in the modeling process, and that people that forego modeling and stay in block-in mode are missing that. So the fact that we had this intensive block-in thing that followed 6 months of intensive form modeling with graphite, which is the most laborious way to model form imaginable. I think gave me this feedback loop that I could visualize the modeling experience while I was negotiating tilts, shapes, and comparative measurements in a way that was far more sophisticated compared to doing block. Like, you would almost think block in practice, then cast drawing. But the fact that you did 6 months of cast drawing and then block in practice made that more significant and made you anticipate that. I don't know how much Jacob thought that out, but that came back up in my life later on when I taught, especially online, where it was outside of this atelier format, where I was like, no, you need to block in, make it as good as possible, and then go through all the steps and paint that form. And then you do the next one and you do the next one. And that learning curve that reinforces it for me as my sort of vantage point as a teacher is when I work with someone who stays with me longer term than a single session. We do that first full portrait, a lot of bumps along the road. Then they go to that next one.
So do you critique them? Excuse me. Do you critique them through those? Because those first value studies must be pretty clumsy, right? So
Yeah,
are you critiquing them to success at that point so that they at least know what their end goal should be and they've experienced their end goal? Okay.
So it depends on who I'm working with, right? So like, it really depends, because I work with people. I imagine this is true for you.
Well, just tell me your ideal. What would be your ideal as a teacher?
Okay, so well, I guess I have to lay out. Let me give you two broad things. Like, if there's someone who has never really done it before, I might start at a more fundamental level, and we just have to see tilt. Like, there are people that I work with that can't even see tilts. They don't know how to distill.
Yeah, of course.
Something they're observing. So there is a version of my program, or there are people I work with that we really do have to start with that. But once somebody can draw reasonably well within a margin of error, then I like to get them to where they work through whole projects. That being said, if someone doesn't have a lot of experience comparing values or conceptualizing form, what I tend to do is I give them very clear, discrete goals. And so I'll even illustrate it for them. I do it digitally on my Wacom tablet. Like, start on this form. Think of it as a sphere. The light is coming from here. This is going to be, approximately this value. Progress around here. Your first goal is to work up to this terminator edge and then expand out laterally, or whatever it is. Then this form, then this form.
But all forms that are part of a single object.
Correct. Like, if you're talking about a face, like, I'll give them a form, and the starting form is going to depend on their experience level, right? So I pick a form that is, easily discernible, you can easily categorize it as like a sphere, a cylinder, a concavity, a convexity, and you can very clearly orient to the light, and ideally one that has a pretty clear shadow edge that you can work up to, so you have a very clear, discernible goal. So I think finding like a clear conceptual pattern to sort of follow, I think, is really important to begin with.
So you're teaching them window shading, basically, but not necessarily from the top down. You're just picking the ones that you think are going to be the most beneficial to start with.
Yeah.
So random locations.
I think the window shading thing is like always funny, because I think people in my world like always look at that as like sort of a pejorative term, right? But like,
well, I wasn't saying it that way.
No, I don't think you were. I think but the thing that you said about it made me think of it that way, because it sounds like you're pulling this window shade down, which I think is essentially the origin of that. And I almost never, unless there's like a really good alternative reason as to why, I never work from the top down. I pick the form. Okay, so one of the reasons why, maybe I said this last time, one of the reasons there are a few reasons, but one of the reasons why people see me begin with eyes when I do a portrait, part of it is psychological. Part of it is that I can set the standard really high if I started an eye, because I care about it more than if I started at a cheek or something else that I would be less enthusiastic. So there's a psychological standard that I set by doing that. But more than any other reason, it's because you establish a lot of contrast. You have a lot of different local colors between the iris, the eyelashes, the pupil, the sclera, the flesh tone. And you also have full forms that are relatively discrete, and they are also relatively, without rushing, without changing your pace, are relatively quick to kind of cover. So I can paint the hood of the brow faster than I can paint the cheek. And so by doing so, I can establish a value range that serves as a legend or a key that I can reference and extrapolate out from the next form.
Yeah.
And then by having the iris value, the pupil value, the eyelash value, the sclera value, the tear duct hue shift, I can then say, here's a key for everything else. The lower eyelid has a lot of diffuse transmission. and translucency. The sclera goes more red. I mean, the sclera has its own range, the tear duct has its own range, and so on and so forth. And so any new area I get to, I am so better served by that little microcosm of relationships and forms than I would be should I paint something like the forehead first. So in that way, I usually progress eye. And by the way, there are a lot of things you learn. I used to do eye, and then I would do nose, and then I would do other eye. Now I do eye and upper cheek, even though it leaves a potential seam right here. I do it on a structural threshold. And that's because when I paint the nose, I want to be able to gradate out from the side plane into the tear bag. And so I actually do eye, upper cheek environment down to like maybe the nostril hole, nose, eye, typically the forehead with above lighting, so that I can then conceptualize the overall ovoid shape of the head.
Wow. Yeah, you got a system down, man. I like that you're setting up a key. I think that's smart. I wondered that when you were saying you started with the eye. That makes perfect sense. You're essentially, well, in most people's phases, maybe if you're drawing a blonde with blonde eyelashes, you may not get the full value range.
Yeah.
But in most people's faces, you're going to get pretty much the full value range.
Everything collapses when I paint albinos. I don't know if you want
Have you ever actually painted an albino?
No.
Oh, I had a student who was dang close to albino. Her sister actually was albino. Her skin was so fair and blue, and
their irises are typically generally very light too, right? Like I don't know if there's a.
Well, her sister had like bluish eyes, but they were so pale that they almost blended into the white of her eyes. I mean, they were really, really pale blue. But I never painted her sister, but I painted her, and oh my gosh, that kind of fair skin. God, the colors. Just so fun to paint, all that color, because it's the more fair it is, the less pigmented it is, it's the more translucent it is, and it's just incredible to paint. But
I've always had I think the hardest people I paint are people that have an incredibly even sort of middle flesh tone.
Oh, like, like tan people.
So hard.
People who sunbathe. Oh, that's the worst. That's the hardest people to make interesting, in my opinion.
It's so hard. I had this. So I painted this one, and I painted this mostly from, I painted it partly from, it was of Nefertiti. I still have a Halloween spider web on this thing for decoration. Anyway, I painted this painting here, and I did it partly from the.
Oh, that's cool. It's so awkward. Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
that's cool.
It's backwards.
Yeah.
So I painted it from the bust of Nefertiti, and I was a little nervous because this was like 2002 or 2003, and I was making it for Patreon and YouTube, and it was like a lot of race conversations at the time in the U.S. and I didn't realize it until I began it, which began out of like just loving that statue and the challenge of it and imagining these tones. I actually looked at a Sargent painting of that girl in profile for some flesh tone cues and things like that, and I remember at the time there was this. Controversy because it turned out there was being a movie being made about the Old Kingdom or some period in ancient Egypt, right? Pre-Ptolemy, when that would have been sort of Macedonian or Greek ethnicity. But like there was this controversy over like the ethnicity of Egyptians or whatever, and that there was this view in Hollywood or at the time of this movie that like they were going to cast with a certain ethnicity, and then there were Egyptians were extremely upset about that. Anyway, so I painted this painting, and I was really nervous, and I didn't read any of the comments, so I don't know if anyone had any issue with my interpretation of what the flesh tones should be. But I ended up having my HVAC guy came over. It's funny, I mentioned an HVAC guy last time. I had another HVAC guy come over one time, and he was Egyptian, and he saw that painting, and he told me I got it right, so I felt validated in that. But,
nice. Wasn't there an Egyptian pharaoh with red hair?
I feel like I've heard of that, but
yeah, I think there was. I can't remember which one it was, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know how that happens in Egypt, but who knows?
I have no idea. I mean, I don't know. I'm too ignorant.
Yeah, me too.
But I do think it's interesting. Like I don't know. Flesh tones are it's a fascinating topic, and I'll admit, like a lot of the conversations I have tend to be more Caucasian flesh tones. Just painted a lot of my family and sort of the model pool I've had all the time. but I think about it all the time. It's like I've painted, a variety of flesh tones, and it's like my conceptual framework doesn't change a lot. Although I will tell you that some of my pigment choices have changed based not on the color space or the color theory, because I think that basically holds. It just shifts a little bit. Some color zoning shifts a little bit, but my palette has always been fine. But one thing I've always struggled with is opacity in my darker pigments rather.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been shifting some pigments lately to kind of solve for that. And
You found opaque darks? What?
Well, I'm using Mars Brown Old Holland right now. Have you used this?
No,
It's
I've
kind
never
of
used any
changed
Old
a
Holland.
lot of. So I actually quite like Old Holland. I know that a lot of people use Michael Harding. I haven't used that quite a bit. I've always historically used a lot of Winsor & Newton because of the content I make, and it's a universally accessible brand. And
Yeah.
and I'm fine with it. It's funny because I don't know about like, so I'm weird. Like I was talking to somebody yesterday about this, like how I get like, my irritation threshold when painting is pretty like low. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so like a lot of times it's like meditative and like I'm in the zone and I feel great. I'm listening to my audiobook and I'm painting and under the delusion I'm a genius. And so life is good. Right. But every now and then like enough like things start to accumulate in the painting experience, whether it's just like an edge isn't working or the paint's not sticking right, or I just can't model this form or whatever, it just looks bad. And it's like, I don't know how many pings I need, like 9 or 10. And then I just I just cross over into pure irritation world.
Yeah.
And so like paint handling is a big one. Right. And so I feel like, I don't know if it's because I'm like an impatient teacher or not, but when I work with a student who has a palette full of colors that I'm not familiar with, like they're using a brand I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
or whatever it is, like my irritation threshold is so low. And I find that it's like, if I don't have like intuitive muscle memory with my color mixtures, I get so annoyed so quickly. And so I'm migrating over to Old Holland, but I only do it a tube at a time so that I don't change my whole palette. So I was like, okay, I'm keeping everything stable and I'm just going to titanium white Old Holland. And so now like, and I basically do one a month so that like I minimize the irritation factor when painting. So I'm at Old Holland titanium white, Old Holland yellow ochre, and I have Old Holland Mars Brown, which is a new color to begin with. And then everything else is Winsor & Newton. So I'm going to Cad Orange next. And so I'm progressively moving towards that. But what
is
I will
Old
say
Holland
is
still, I remember when I was in art school, Old Holland was at the art supply store and it was crazy expensive. So I never got it. But now I've been painting so long and using other things besides the more affordable brands. Is Old Holland comparable to say Vasari or Gamblin or
I don't
Winsor
know how
Newton?
it compares. It's for 100% more expensive than Winsor Newton or Gamblin. I can't compare it to the other more premium brands, but it's far more concentrated. What I will, so as like anyone who knows me knows I'm like the furthest thing from like a material snob. Maybe I'm changing. Maybe I'll become, different as time unfolds here with more time in my Old Holland with my Old Hollands. But I will say that I've always tried to paint within a reasonable budget, and like I there are canvases I like that I don't use, and I use much more inexpensive linen for that reason. But I will tell you that, and I've always been skeptical about outcome changes when it comes to more premium brands. I will tell you that I feel like there is a noticeable difference in life, not like, when I film or photograph the work. I feel like there's a noticeable difference using the Old Hollands.
Really? Yeah,
Enough
I'll
to
have to give it
where,
a try. Try some of it and just see.
do you use titanium or what do you use for your white?
I use Winsor Newton. I mean, I use all different brands. Vasari is one of my favorites. I have Gamblin. I have Winsor Newton.
But do you use
I have
titanium
Michael
or zinc
Harding.
or
I always
flake?
use
What do you use?
titanium and well, yeah. I mean, I have flake white, but I rarely use it. Or not flake white, lead white. I like titanium, and I usually use Winsor Newton. What's it called? Fast drying alkyd Griffin. Alkyd Griffin, I think it's what it's called.
Oh, you use alkyd. So do you just use alkyd with your white, or do you use it across the board?
Just the white. Just the white.
Yeah, that's such a good system, I actually think. Like, because you end up mixing that into most mixtures.
Oh
and
yeah,
it's like
every day it's dry.
where,
Every day.
right, but if everything was alkyd, I feel like it's too much. But if you just use your
No, it's too
titanium
much.
white, it's a nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I didn't realize other people were doing that. I did that for a period of time, but then I started to feel, I don't know, like my paintings are almost always dry the next day without doing that.
Wait, where do you live again? Aren't you in Florida or something? Where are you?
Yeah, but I mean, like, because I sweat so easily, I'm like pumping the AC. So I have
Huh.
I have a lot of like air conditioning.
Huh.
So maybe that's
Interesting.
contributing to the
Well, you
burn.
also probably paint a lot thinner than I do.
Yeah, I probably do. I probably
Yeah.
do. Although I'm not painting it. It's the paint opacity from the tube.
No, granted, but I'll just to give you some perspective. In 2 weeks, I've been through 4.5 250 milliliter lead tubes of lead of titanium white.
Yeah. I
So
mean, that's a
tubes that
lot.
are
Of
this
course,
big, I've been through 4.5 of them in 2 weeks.
right. That's like
It's like so much
so much
paint.
more, so much paint. So maybe you shouldn't switch to Old Holland because I don't know if anyone's
I'm
going to
not going to use
afford
Old
that.
Holland for my white.
Fine.
Yeah.
But that's interesting. But you're also probably covering huge areas.
That's the
Whereas,
thing.
like,
I'm covering huge areas, but I also paint really thick. I mean, it's
yeah,
got to be. I mean, in my lights, it's got to be a millimeter, 2 millimeters off the canvas. It's pretty
jeez.
thick.
You know, were you talking to France? Who are you talking about with about Van Dyke recently? Francis Bell.
Francis, well, we've talked about him several times. Micah and I had one about Van Dyke. Francis Bell brought
I
up Van
think
Dyke.
there was a point when you guys were talking. Somebody you were talking to, I think it was Francis. So you're talking about the impasto buildup, and you had this idea of like that was like built in from the initial layers, or like from the go,
Yeah,
like
it's the
that.
process. It's not decorative. It's not like a piece of frosting on the end of a painting. It's part of it.
I have this weird thing about like some of that, and tell me what you think about this because I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know. It's not my domain. I for whatever reason, as much as I love it and would like to sort of readjust towards some other outcome, like I am me to whatever degree, and I can't stop blending my paintings to death.
you gotta own, man. You gotta own your own mannerisms.
No, I do. I
Yeah.
think that like it's fine. Like I feel like a lot of people have impasto covered. Like it just isn't my thing. Like
Right.
it's not my area. But I can't help but be tempted to go in that lane sometimes. But I think about it sometimes, and I saw there was a Van Dyke at the National Gallery. It's so big and so high up, I couldn't really see the faces at all. But there was a Van Dyke there, and then there was this Rembrandt, which I could get eye level with. Um, and then I saw the Rembrandts in the Met in December. There's a feeling I have with sometimes when I look at these imposters, and this could even be like with a Sargent for that matter.
Mm-hmm.
But let's take Rembrandt as the example, as someone I know you've studied and I've kind of puzzled over, and even that Van Dyke, when you see the impasto stuff, the frosting on the cake, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I see between the cracks, between in the spaces between these rich impasto brushstrokes that we become so enamored with, and that we sort of identify the painting as being sort of built of these impasto marks. I feel like I see so many soft dithered things, like a node at the corner of the mouth on a Rembrandt comes to mind, areas around the orbicular source, any number of transitional areas, the spaces between the sort of salient, evident impasto marks that are so directional to the form. I feel like I see these gradations. Now, I'm not suggesting in any way that they painted anything close to like Bouguereau or how I would, I mean, Bouguereau's far after, but, smoothed out. But it feels like there's this unspoken, undiscussed uh, foundational form that underlies and supports these impasto marks in a number of people, be it Van Dyke, Rembrandt, Sargent,
Hmm.
that I feel like is often discounted, that people are, kind of using your frosting of the cake analogy, like in this respect, I feel like there's this softer form modeling that is then frosted with impasto. And it
Hmm.
and it made me think about like some of that commentary that if I'm getting you correctly, like where it's like intrinsic to the sort of process. I'm not, again, I don't think it's as simple
Dude,
as
we
like they
should pull
painted
up
soft.
that Van Dyke painting. Do you remember the name of that?
Yeah,
What was that?
it's
Van
awesome
Dyke
painting.
portrait.
I don't know.
Which I think was his best portrait, and he did it like at 18 or something, which is crazy.
Yeah. That's so annoying. I loved her point about like the breath, like the
Oh,
feeling
dude,
his
she's so
exhale. That was cool.
poetic. Can you get
That's
over?
so, I don't think about that. I'm such a like, oh, the form turns here. Like it should be lighter here, darker here. I'm so like that
Oh, I
I
love
miss
how
things
you
like
talk
that.
too. You two are so different. She speaks like a poet. You speak like an engineer, and both are really sophisticated. It's just, I love it. Okay, so this is it. I'm kind of more like you, but not as much. I mean, your vocabulary when it comes to art is next level, but I think more engineer-like, I think, than some other artists do. Okay,
This
I don't
isn't
know
a
if we're
word,
gonna
right?
be able to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me see.
It's hard to see. Yeah, I mean, like, there's so many evident impasto regions, like the forehead for is
I'm gonna save it and then I'm gonna pull it up in another.
yeah.
Give me a sec here. So here it is. So honestly, his stuff's not that thick.
It's always so hard for me to tell in these images. I mean, you can see the sort of, little cast shadows from the rivets of paint on the forehead. But it's like if you look at the side plane of the nose, I would say that
It's not very thick
a
at
good,
all.
well, but I think that sort of what undergirds or what sort of supports like any of the impasto marks that we do see, like it just looks like there's just these subtly blended things. I'm not saying they're sort of, at the level of my sort of nauseating sort of uniform blended surfaces, but I'm saying that it's there, and it's like,
Well,
and I
I
see
don't
it
think
so
they're mutually exclusive. I think
I
you
don't think so either.
right. Yeah, you can blend impasto. It's just well, you can and you can't. The way I work is fat over lean. So the lower layers are the thick, no medium layers. And then at the top layers, once the pasto's kind of already there, if I need a subtle turn at that point, then I'm fatter on top of that. Now, just, you understand this, but just in case someone doesn't, fat doesn't mean thicker. Fat means more medium, right? So it's actually thinner, which is sort of counterintuitive. And, but then, yeah, so you put more oil on the top layers. So then on top of impasto, you can sort of render form. The way I treat it, for good or for bad, is I think of it like a ramp. And the bottom of the ramp is black and the top of the ramp is white. And as I move up in value toward white, I'm using that same incline with my
Mm.
impasto. So my goal is not to just have impasto in the tens and eight, let's say 8 through 10, and then have all the same level from 7 to 1. My goal is to have one flat and then two slightly taller, three slightly taller, all the way up to 10. So it's the same ramp as the value
Mm.
ramp. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. So, as someone, I don't have a codified or clear, coherent impasto system. So, I'm going to be speaking hypothetically. When I've done it, I've sort of shoveled it in at like weird stages that I don't think it isn't something that is enough a part of my process or enough in my background to feel like I can have a meaningful conversation. But I kind of like uh, having a sort of hypothetical conversation and then sort of drawing from you, who
Right.
does it
Right.
so incredibly well and beautifully. Here's my okay. So here's one reaction to that ramp, which I think is really interesting, and then I kind of want to like sort of like turn it into a question for
Okay.
you, if you don't mind. Okay, so I like the idea of a ramp. Now I'm not picking on anyone in any way, but
Okay.
there's a version of impasto, even by people who like I think their paintings otherwise are amazing and I admire and I look at and I'm like, I don't know how you do that.
Right.
There's this version of impasto that you see in some contemporary realist paintings where there's no ramp and
Yeah.
there's up to 90% no impasto, and then there's like bird crap on the forehead for the highlight,
That's exactly
right?
what I'm trying to avoid. Yeah.
Right. So there's no ramp.
Right.
Right. So I think the ramp is interesting, and having a ramp that is connected to a other scale is kind of um, a good way out of that. So like your incremental as you go up like 1 through 10 or whatever it is. I don't use value scales, but like hypothetically or intuitively. I mean, it's even like with fat over lean, in terms of use of medium. I don't measure it out, but I intuitively always paint fat over
Right.
lean as I do subsequent layers, right? Like I add more oil, a medium. Um, but there's I'm wondering too, like I'm wondering if like Van Dyke, Rembrandt as like two sort of obvious examples um, for impasto. Like Rembrandt, for example, like I'm thinking about this self-portrait that one of his self-portraits that was at the National Gallery that I just saw. Some of it correlated to the value. So some of it, like a lot of it, would be connected to, uh, ostensibly connected to a value scale, to where that would be 80% functional. But I actually don't know that that was what he was doing. It- From my memory of it, not really isolating this as a thing, right? So if like you and I were standing in front of it right now, like we might have a totally different opinion and be able to point to different parts.
Right, right.
My memory of it feels like it actually ramped with the convexity protrusion towards the viewer.
Well, that I don't think you're wrong. And so I'm actually glad you said that, because it's not quite as simple as the ramp. So, well, at least for me, and as you were speaking, I was waiting for a pause so that I could actually give the disclaimer that
Mhm.
it's never that perfect. And this is what goes way back to the beginning, or relates way back to the beginning of the conversation. When copying a painting, it's so much simpler to copy it when an artist has solved these problems, because while this ramp thing is good in concept, it's not the only answer, and it's
Yeah.
always a balance between all these different tools. So the way I see the ramp thing is um, is as you build up more Impasto, you're actually building up more opacity too, right? And being that dark is the absence of light. Excuse me. Dark is the absence of light, and we can't actually create an absence of light in a painting. The way we sort of mimic an absence of light, besides just choosing a dark pigment, is choosing a transparent pigment, which will absorb some of that light, which comes a little closer to the illusion of absence of light, because it absorbs some of it, right? It's the best we can do with paint. So if I can create a closer illusion to the absence of light in the darkest darks, and then by adding more impasto, all I'm doing, well, not all I'm doing, but part of what I'm attempting to do is to create more opacity by building up more pigment as I move up that ladder. And I found in my own paintings, it increases form dramatically. It creates something that were painted all the correct values and even the correct transparency and opacity. In my personal experience, my personal paintings, I've noticed that if it's thinner, it doesn't quite, I mean, we're talking small amounts here, right? But you and I, obviously, as artists at this stage in our lives, that's all we're after anymore, right? Just that
Yeah.
1% better, right? Which
No,
is
no.
so hard to
There's
get.
diminishing returns. Like, yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah.
for us at this point.
Yeah. So I'm not talking about dramatic here, but to me, it's enough that for my work, it makes a difference. But so what I'm doing is I'm pushing that transparency and opacity separation even further, but also keeping it consistent with the variation from transparency and opacity. And so now, do I always do it? No, because there are times where first of all, there are other tools for creating depth. You know, there's detail, there's edges, there's chroma, there's temperature, there's so many other tools to create or to improve on your illusion of depth. And sometimes I just can't have impasto in a certain place I can't think of a reason off the top of my head right now. Maybe I don't want to look at the side plane of the face, even though technically it's 50% gray and it needs a little impasto, but I want to focus more on the layers that are closest to me, like you described. So I'll have to modify the ramp slightly. So it's not a perfect science. That's the thing about art, right? It's just, and that's why it's so hard and elusive to create a masterpiece even once, much less over and over again, because you're always balancing, at least that's how I feel. I'm always balancing all of those different components, trying to find the right recipe between the different components to get maximum effectiveness, you know, whether that be aesthetically, form, composition, whatever, right?
Yeah.
So as I describe that theory, that principle that I use, it's just one principle of creating depth. I use it a lot, but it's not religious. I'm not dogmatic about it. I have to be willing to compromise for other tools. So I
Yeah.
agree with you with Rembrandt. I've seen him do it both ways, and it just depends. I'm assuming it just depends on what he's after in the moment. or what seems to
Yeah,
work.
I agree. I agree with everything. I agree with everything. And I think there is this just tension and balance. I mean, it really speaks to something that I work with people on all the time. And it's something that I slowly discovered, because I think originally I thought you just get better and you master it, and then like you do it correctly. And what I realized is really what happens is that you're in every scenario, whatever it is, like edge quality, like color harmony, whatever thing you're trying to solve for, and it might be an overlap of many things. Like it's about having the correct, or not correct, but like a good conversation about what balance you're trying to strike. So like I might
Mm-hmm.
model the form, and my sort of aim in that particular scenario is to make it look round in 3D. So as such, I over model, and by over modeling in this scenario, not as just a general term, I make a gradation that is too soft, too broad, whatever it is, right? So I've essentially over modeled it. I've over
Yeah.
described this gradation and light effect. And so then I have to re-clarify and restate that terminator edge. Like I have to refine exactly where that light is terminating or running tangent to the curve of form. I restate it. Now it's too hard again. So that's fine. Then I go back and I remodel it, but I'm modeling more finely. I'm modeling in that last 10 degrees into that terminator. It gets a little soft again. So I re-articulate it. I re-soften it. I articulate it. And basically it's like a pendulum. I'm narrowing in. So whether it's color harmony, hue shifts, chroma shifts, clarity of shadow edge or lack thereof. Like I'm always trying to narrow into that balance. And I've gotten comfortable over the years knowing that I don't get it right away. It's about finding the right conversation so I can narrow in on
Mm-hmm.
the correct
Mm-hmm.
balance, or whatever that is. And
Yeah.
I think that, to that degree, it's like, there's a lot of utility to having a system like you have this value ramp, sort of impasto ramp, gets you like however whatever percent there, but you're also willing to traverse the form around this way to magnify the sort of convexity of the nose protruding towards you, or the bridge of the nose, or whatever it is. So I think that makes I think it makes a lot of sense. And I think
Yeah.
that ultimately it's like this compromise that you sort of strike, like you're dealing with all of these things, and you find sort of this compromise. And it's kind of funny. This is a little bit of a tangent, but it popped in my head in this conversation, something you had referred to earlier on. And I think we were talking about the Delaroche painting, and you were like, you looked at that and you were like, you could decode it or you understood it. And it's funny because I look at Rembrandt, I look at your work, I look at Alex
Oh, I
Venezia,
can't
I look at a
decode
lot.
Rembrandt. I'm doing my
I
best,
right.
but I've
Well, I
never been
can't.
able to decode it.
Like, there's probably why I orient towards Bouguereau, because he's so vastly beyond me. Like I always think of myself like Allegory of the Cave. Like there's Bouguereau paintings, like are the like true forms, and then mine are the shadow of. I'm like the shadow of Bouguereau, and it's
I
like I'm
think you
trying to
have
find the.
decoded Bouguereau. I mean, you paint different. I think you
It's
have a different color palette, but
yeah. That's I mean every and like hamburger meat form too. Like that's another attribute of mine
no,
compared
no,
to
no, no,
Bouguereau.
no. I just think
Um,
he's very cold. He paints, his flesh tones are very cold, where you tend to be more warm. But I would suspect that the way you're modeling form is very similar to the way he did it. You don't think?
Well, from the images of his paintings where I've seen his ébauches and I've seen like different layers or unfinished portions, I think his process was much more like a more robust ébauche and probably more layers. But I do feel like I can look at his paintings and I can understand them even if I
Yeah,
can't do them.
yeah.
Um, and it's funny though, because I was thinking about how, like we talked about this last time, and I was talking about Rachel's paintings, and I was talking about some other ones, and that painting of yours that I couldn't decode. And I was thinking, I wonder if like there's the part of it where we just latch on to the flaws in our own work, and we have just this sort of disposition to dislike our own work just
Yeah, don't
naturally.
we?
But I wonder if it's partly is because, of course, we can decode did it. And so I wonder if that's like a big built-in sort of
Wait, you cut out
devaluation
for
we
a
have of our.
second. You cut out. Of course we can what?
Of course we can decode our own work. There's no
Oh,
mystery to it.
duh.
Right.
Yeah,
So I
right.
think that's a big part of why we don't value it. Because even if it's really
Oh, there's
good,
no mystery.
there's no mystery. So I look at my painting and maybe it's like pushes the frontier of whatever I could do, or maybe it's like compared to other people. I'm just speaking about myself hypothetically. I don't think that this is what my work
Oh
does,
my
but
gosh.
I think that our work, like we can decode it, so we'll never value it because we can decode it.
Oh my gosh. Dude, I'm 51 years old. I've been painting for 25 years, and that never occurred to me. Every night I
It
go to sleep
literally came out of
wondering,
this conversation. I thought of it.
Yeah, seriously, every night I go to sleep thinking, why do I suck at painting? And then,
Right, but
and you finally, or why don't I like my own work? And I think you hit it on the head. There's no excitement because we know too much.
right, and when I look at like, and I mean, he's legitimately amazing, but like Alex Venezia, who's one of my, I think he's one of the best
Oh,
right
he's
now.
incredible.
I look at his work and I can't decode it.
Yeah.
I mean, he is objectively better than me, but I'm saying like I can't decode it, so it gives this, it creates this chasm between when I look at my own work and his work.
Huh. I have to, yeah. What do you think it is you're missing in his work?
I don't know. I mean,
You
I don't,
don't,
I don't know. He's amazing, and like he has, I mean, there's just any number of qualities, but like there are a number of artists, like yourself included, that I sort of look at with this sort of feeling. But I don't know with him. Like I think
huh.
he's like a, I'm sure I don't want to. This sounds almost like I'm trying to, or not trying to, like he's like for me. I feel this way about like Jeremy Lipking. Like there's certain outliers. There's just going to be like the Tom Brady's. Like there's going to be
Mm-hmm.
the like, and like the thing about like if I think about like Lipking, right? Like I don't know how old Lipking is. I think he's maybe your age or
He's
my
my
age, somewhere
age.
in
Yeah. I
between.
think he's around 49, 50 or something.
Right. But he's been doing it for like as long as I even got interested in this. Like he's
Oh,
been
yeah. He's
making
having his
amazing things.
30-year thing in
Yeah.
Georgia. That's
Like the
crazy.
Booth Museum. And so I'm kind of like, there's just these people that are in this domain and they're just, like they're just amazing. And I don't quite know what it is. And I haven't seen, I haven't seen actually, I've seen either of their work or your work in real life. So I don't know, but
You haven't seen
um,
neither of them in real life?
no,
Really?
no, I'm trying to,
Wow.
I haven't seen a lot. Like I saw like one of the things I went to the, how do you say it? The meme,
Meme?
MEAM, the one in Barcelona meme.
That's how I
I
say
went to
it.
their,
Yeah.
I went to their exhibition last year. Um, I missed this year. I was there, but they were closed on the day I was there. Um, but so I couldn't see it because Alex's painting was in it. And I was really upset because I really wanted to see that painting. But the year before, there was a number of people whose work I'd never seen in real life that I finally got to see in real life. And it was really cool. Like it was, we all feel this way, but like you do this painting and like then you photograph it for Instagram and it's like, you know, and
Yeah.
so
Yeah, that's true. But you know what? I've seen a lot of just through the Porch Society because, you see
oh,
a
that's
lot of,
true. That's a
yeah, you
great
see a
way.
lot through the
Yeah.
Porch Society. And I'll tell you what, man, I've seen a lot of paintings over the years that actually look better on Instagram. And then when I see them in person, I'm like, oh, I'm not, it's good. I mean, it looks like it did, but you expect it to improve. And it's like, oh yeah, that's what I expected. But then when I look at Alex's when I look at Alex's in person, no, it doesn't disappoint. It's like,
Yeah.
dude,
Somebody was telling me, oh, I think it was Lucas Bononi. Like he was telling me how like he was saying how he was in a still life competition. I don't know if you know Lucas, but he teaches at
he was on the
GCA. And
podcast.
oh yeah, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
I knew that. He's super cool. I finally got to meet him in
Yeah.
December,
He's
and
so
um,
talented.
he's great. Like a great person too. Like just super cool. And I remember we were talking about Alex, and he was like, he was in some still life competition at GCA years ago, before Alex was like really, what he is now,
Yeah.
really on the radar. And like Alex comes in kind of as an unknown and just does this still life. And like Lucas was like, you could like feel the fuzz on the peach, like when you looked at his painting.
He's,
And it's
yeah.
like, I don't know what that is. Like it's, I don't know what it is. And it's good. Like, of course, like, I don't know, I'm beat down. I'm in my 40s now, but like, so my ego is like what it is. Like it's gone through enough, bouts to where it's just sort of hanging on the edge of the ring. But like, there's this part of me that's just like, you know, I'm glad that there are people like that, because it just gives us something to like orient to and to sort of
Sets the
fight for.
bar
Yeah, it's
or
just, and
raises the
I'm not
bar.
going to be able to do it, but like, it's okay if like we aim towards something and we fall short, because aiming gets us so much higher than we would if we didn't.
Well, I love how modest you are, but I just got to say that you're speaking from exactly what you described. You've decoded yourself, so you're not seeing the real you. I'll tell you that right now. but that said, I agree with you about Alex. I mean, one of the conversations I've often had with artists is this conversation of talent. And I'm sorry, but this idea that there's no such thing as talent, I just don't buy it. I mean, there are certain people like Alex. Alex was in a workshop with me when he was like 20 in New York.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And dude,
You were teaching it or was somebody
I was
else?
teaching it. And he was nobody. No one knew who he was. He was just a kid. No one knew who he was then. I mean, had no career, never been in galleries, nothing. And I was floored by his natural talent.
Yeah.
And I remember we went out in the yard. It was at Garen Baker's house in upstate New York. And Garen and I were talking to him. And I said to Alex, I was like, Alex, dude, he was nervous. I don't know if you know Alex, but he's very unassuming. He's very quiet. He's like salt of the earth. One of the
Yeah.
nicest, best people. But he's very unassuming and quiet. There's nothing aggressive about him at all. And he's just sitting there modestly listening. And I'm like, Alex, you have got to do something. You cannot let this thing go. You have something special. And you could just see how happy he was to hear that. I mean, who wouldn't be, right? Because for some reason he had enough respect for me to come to my workshop. And then when I said that to him, you could just see that he was listening, you know? And go. And then within like 2 years, he was a better painter than me. And I'm just like, I mean, there's some people just have something special, you know, and I don't care what anyone says. Yes, we all can learn to paint, but not all of us can be Alex. You know, not all of us can be Bouguereau. Not all of us are going to be Sargent. There's something in the DNA. Not all of us are going to be Kim Jong-gi. Not all of us are going to be Scott Waddell. Not all of us are going to be, you know, there is something to it. I call it an aptitude because people don't like the word talent. There's certain people that just have an aptitude for this stuff and it just sinks in a little faster than others. And people like Alex, man, it's sunk in freaking fast.
Yeah, and look, I mean, they're going to be these really talented people, and they're going to be super inspirational, and they're going to do incredible things. And I think at the same time, like we also, you know, like I want to have as much art as possible. Like I want to foster as much art as I can in my capacity as a teacher. And like, you know, we could all okay. The thing about it, like my friend Doug, who I referred to a lot in the last show that you and I did together. He said this thing to me early on, and it was at the right time. Like it was when I was at like my most competitive, my most vulnerable, the most sort of high testosterone. I needed to be the best, whatever mindset I had. As
I just laughed because I remember it. for me personally.
I mean, in my 20s, I wanted to be the best, and I like absolutely. Having kids changed that, and then getting into my 40s and just sort of like whatever else settles in at that point changed it further. But I remember him saying, like, I can't remember how he laid it out, but he was like, do you like Robert De Niro? I was like, yeah. He's like, do you like Al Pacino? And I was like, yeah. And he mentioned like a number of actors, and it was like me liking someone else, or me thinking maybe Robert De Niro was a better actor than Al Pacino or Kevin Spacey at the time. I know we can't talk about him anymore, but whoever it was that came up at the time, right?
Right.
I didn't diminish these other people that might be less, you know, like sort of qualified or, you know, good, you know, and it was like, there's a lot of different actors and they fill different niches, and it's like different artists.
Amen.
It's like,
amen.
Do I think differently about you, Jeff, because I like Alex? No. Like I want both of your works. I'm inspired by both.
That's so well said.
And I think that like really changed the framing for me. It's like, I don't like I think that we feel like I don't know if this is just me and my neuroses and my like insane competitive nature. So maybe I'm alone in this, but I think it's pretty universal. I think there's a feeling when we see someone better that we imagine everyone comparing that person to you personally. No one is. I don't see Alex's work and think immediately, let me compare that to Jeff's work, any more than you're looking at Alex's work and comparing it to mine.
No, I want one of each of yours. Yeah, exactly. That's well said.
But I think we do that, and we're like, everybody sees I'm worse than this other person, and nobody's doing that. They're liking that other person, and they're also liking you, or not liking you and not liking that other person. They're not doing that. You're doing that. And I think that there's comfort in sort of knowing that that's what we're doing. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
don't know.
think we think of art and a lot of things this way that we probably shouldn't. Almost like sports, where you might have the star athlete that scores 50 points in a 100-point game. And that means that the other four players, assuming there were only five in that game, only got to score about 12 points each. So therefore, that star player is clearly the best. Art doesn't work that way.
No.
It doesn't work at all that way. Yeah. Man,
And
you've
it's
had a lot
also,
of good thoughts. I wish you could have shared this with me when I was in my 20s. But the thing
the
is, you
20s
kind
were,
of have to be a little bit arrogant in your 20s. Well, not arrogant. You kind of have to, I mean, maybe I'm justifying how I acted. But I remember my mom saying to me once when I was a teenager, because I grew up in Newburgh, New York, and no one in my high school was any good at painting and drawing. And, my mom's like, if you want to be an artist, you're going to have to learn to sell yourself. And I'm like, but, once I leave Newburgh, I'm going to be garbage, no, this is just Newburgh. Of course I'm good in Newburgh, and she's like, well, you're going to have to get over that and learn how to sell yourself. So then I get into my 20s and I start mid to late 20s. I was kind of a late bloomer. And I start really selling myself. My mom's voice is ringing in my head. And I remember, if I want to be successful, I got to sell myself. And then at some point I started hearing myself selling myself. And I'm like, I got to stop. I'm like, I got to chill out, and realize that my work is selling me.
mm,
I just need to let my work do what it does. If people like it, they like it. If they don't, they don't. I don't need to have this competitive heart all the time. I just need to be behind the easel and painting. So it's not to say that my mom was wrong. I think she was right to a point. It took me a while to understand that I didn't need to be the best. I didn't need to prove to everyone that I was better in order to be appreciated. I don't know when it happened, but I wish it happened, before I embarrassed myself too much with it.
yeah.
But,
Yeah. I agree with you totally. And every respect, I mean, like the change over time, of course. And it's like I run on a different sort of fuel type now, it's like now I'm like this self-sustaining garden. And like
yeah,
before I had to run on like nuclear energy or coal energy. And I benefited so much from that insane, like sort of competitive aspect in my 20s. Like I needed that. And
you kind of have to be a little crazy to do this.
well, I went through this thing. It's kind of funny because it speaks to your talent thing and like your notion of talent. Like I was definitely like categorized as a talented kid, right? Like,
Yeah.
and like it's funny because like I was like sort of skeptical of that at whatever point. I remember being like, however, you know, like 20 something. And I remember going back to my parents' house and like looking at the scrapbook they saved of mine, like when I was like 3, 4, 5 years old, and these drawings. And they were pretty good. Like, I'll be fair. Like they were like clearly like talented. Right.
Right.
And I was talented through high school and talented and whatever. And kind of told some of that story where I went to film school and so forth. I was talented, but you know as well as I do, like that's not going to get you very far, especially
No.
now with how the world is with ateliers and academic training that's available to us. And so I remember kind of coasting on that for a bit, and being like, whatever, I'm talented. I'm also going to play guitar. I'm going to make movies, and like, look at me. And then like at some point, like people that I sort of dismissed as not being particularly talented, but were working harder than me. And this applies in college, but then also when I went to the atelier world and Jacob and everything, there were people that like, when I first sort of logged them into my mind and kind of filed them away as like less talented than me, they worked harder and they got better than me. And I was like, oh, I actually have to work like really hard. Like, and so the talent gets you somewhere. And like, I'm not going to deny that. And there are people, and I'm not going to name names, obviously, but in Water Street, I have a couple people, two people in particular, people that like were ostensibly more talented from the start, and people that were less, but like very smart. And there are other attributes that are associated with getting better that are necessary, working hard being the top of the list. There were people that just seemed very primitive in their sort of implementation originally and got so much farther.
Oh
And so
yeah.
I think that like both are true and they work
Both are
together. So if
true.
you're
Yeah.
I mean, Alex
Yeah,
works
but if you're
hard.
one of those talented people that also works hard, those are the ones you can't
Like,
catch up to.
well, Alex, I don't think, look at Alex's body of work. Like just by how prolific he is, the
Yeah,
guy's working, right? So he's on the highest end of talent and on the highest end of working hard.
exactly.
So that's going to be your outlier. Jeremy Lipking paints a million gajillion
Oh,
paintings.
he's got such a huge portfolio. Yeah.
Right. So you're going to have these people that are on the highest end of talent, the highest end of, but it doesn't mean that you can't be like in the middle of talent and work really hard and become better. Like there's opportunity for all of us in whatever permutation we have.
This episode is brought to you in part by Rosemary Brushes. If you're one of my listeners who's a professional artist, you're already using Rosemary Brushes. But for the rest of you, come on. Take your work a little more seriously. Stop buying the other brands. It's just not worth it. Every now and then you may get lucky and buy a good brush from another brand, but use the brand that professionals like myself are using. Go to rosemaryandco.com, link in the description or the show notes, and get yourself some quality brushes before your next painting.
Yeah, if another sports analogy, I use sports analogies way too much. I'm not even a big sport guy, but I know a young man who's he's about 18, 19 years old. Kid's got tons of natural athletic ability, way more than I do. I've known him since he was young, and he was a kind of little kid that just, you throw him a ball at 4 years old and he catches it with one hand like it's not, I mean, just really coordinated,
Yeah.
But I've played this kid in my sports. I'm an average athlete. I got pretty good at my two sports, which is basketball and hockey, but I'm not gifted by any stretch. I'm an average athlete. I'm not uncoordinated, but I'm not gifted, right? But I got pretty good at those two sports because I played them all the time.
Right.
So I play this kid in those two sports and I wipe the floor with him even though I'm 50 because he never plays them. That's not his sport. He doesn't play him. He's blessed with all his talent. If he played that sport for 1 year, he'd wipe the floor with me, but he hasn't, right? So just because you're born with aptitude, if you never apply the aptitude particular skill and you're never trained in that particular area, the aptitude just goes to waste. It's not, it's not going to do anything for you, right? You're not born with a paintbrush. You're born with the ability to understand painting principles, but until you're taught and you practice, then you'll never reveal the potential for your aptitude.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I agree with you 100%. I've had students, I had these two students sign up once. One was incredibly naturally talented and lazy as dirt. And the other guy begged me to study with me. I almost told him no because he didn't have any, I didn't see any potential. And I was like, this guy's going to be with me forever. They signed up the same day, more or less. Within 2 years, the other kid that had no talent was better than the talented one, but the talented one never drew anything. All she did was come to the studio every day and like BS with another girl student and giggle all day long. She didn't do anything. She eventually dropped out. This kid, he came to the studio. He was there 10 hours a day. He worked his butt off. I mean, it was hard for him, and he did take a long time, but he passed up someone with talent who didn't do anything. So I'm not saying the talent's the only way. I'm just saying, man, if you, like you just said it, I don't need to repeat it, but I will. If you've got the work ethic of Alex and you've got the talent of Alex, you're unstoppable. Like that's the magic combination right there. So yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, and also too, just in terms of like just a motivational aspect, like it's like, and I know maybe they aren't household names. Who can aspire to that, right? We don't know how history plays out. We don't know how cultures that will follow us and sort of generations that follow us will value or appreciate our artwork. So it's like an absurd thing to sort of aim towards a target you can't see.
So
I don't think about anything like that. But I went, and maybe I mentioned this last time. I recently went to this exhibit at the Museum of St. Pete here in near Tampa, and they had this Caravaggio. It was a Caravaggio exhibit, but they had a lot of Caravaggio paintings, people that painted in the manner of Caravaggio and sort of contemporaneous to him, and it even included Ribera and well-known people like that, but a lot of artists I'd never seen before.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, like I'm walking through here. I didn't know who any of these people, like a majority other than Ribera, I didn't know who any of them were. And these paintings were just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Like they were amazing. Were they Caravaggio? No.
Mm-hmm.
Were they Ribera? No. But they were amazing, and they participated in this thing of making things that were inspirational, that were beautiful, that told a story. They were part of this, like optimistic, like it's worth making something and spending your time making something. And I was kind of like, okay, well, maybe I'm not Alex, maybe I'm not Jeremy, whatever it is, however I see myself, I'm not really even in a position to evaluate that. But whatever that competitive spirit is, which is fine, it lights a fire for a period of your life. But like, I want to make things wherever I'm at, whatever my capacity is. I want to make things, and that's good, and I should do that. And it's like, so I recenter myself on, the outlooks that sort of contribute to me doing that and the likelihood of me doing that, because that's ultimately what I want my life to be, is to make things, whatever they are, however they are, and however they're made. I think that's a good thing. And when I look at like periods, it is staggering when you go into these places. This is true in the National Gallery. It's true in the Louvre. It's true anywhere you go. There are a lot of artists you've never heard of, and they're making art, and it's amazing.
It's crazy.
And like,
I know.
I'll be like number 75 on the list, or 175 on the list of people now, but I'm going to make stuff, and that to me is, it talks me out of any of that doubt or any of those things that sort of halt me in my tracks. I'm like, I want to make paintings, and I want to participate in the making of things now.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And back to your point about the fact that you've so intimately decoded your own work that you can't see and even appreciate it anyway, it makes it pointless to compete, because even if you surpassed someone, you wouldn't know it.
You wouldn't know it. In fact, there's only one thing.
Yeah.
I give myself credit for being able to do one thing, which is like, this might be true.
Yeah.
I think I'm the world's best. I might be the world's best at painting a highlight on an eye, to the degree.
I couldn't wait to hear what you were going to say. That's gold.
I actually think I want to make a tutorial, white canvas, just a dot of titanium white. And that's the thing.
And I'm the world's worst.
Oh my God.
No, I am.
If we united, if we combined.
Oh, imagine that. Imagine that. Then we'd be just the best mediocre painter in the world. But no.
Yeah, right.
I was at a porch. I say that because I was at the Porch Society, and did, for some reason, all of a sudden I feel like I told you this, but I don't know why I would have. But I went to the Porch Society many years ago. It's like 13 years ago, and I was there as a finalist. And an artist didn't show up for the face-off. So I told Christine, I had heard them over talking. I was like, Christine, I'll do the face-off. I'm not on the faculty. I said, I'll do the face-off. She says, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah, sure. This was back in the days where they would judge it. Oh, my stupid phone. They would judge the face-off. The crowd would. So it would be People's Choice. They'd set all the face-off portraits in the hall, and then the people would decide which one was their favorite. And whoever the patrons decided was their favorite, that particular artist would have to go on stage the very next morning in front of the entire conference and do a portrait. So this is my first year. I'm just a finalist. I'm not even faculty. And I got chosen to go up on stage. And so I am freaking nervous. There's 700 people watching me. I wasn't even expecting to be faculty. I'm just one of the finalists. And it went pretty well. I painted Kate Stone.
Are you expected to talk and like kind of tutorialize?
No, I'm doing a full-on demo in front of the whole conference.
Were you expected to talk, or were you able to
I had to talk the whole time, which isn't a problem because I've been teaching my whole life. But I had to talk the whole time, and I did. But I don't know that anyone noticed that I was nervous. I was a little bit nervous, just nervous enough that at the end, when I went to put the highlight in the eye, I was just shaking enough that I completely missed the eye and hit like the upper cheek or something. And of course, I made fun of myself. But it's when you said that about the highlights, I just thought about that. It was like in front of 700 or 800 people, I just completely missed the eye. I should have had you right there. All right, we're going to bring Scott Waddell on the stage to put in one of his amazing highlights. Yeah. That was funny. Anyway.
Yeah, that's crazy. I would be terrified. I don't know. I don't
think you'd be terrified. You'd be so good on stage.
What's that?
You'd be so good at doing that.
No. Well, maybe a highlight. Yeah, highlight I would do in the zone, but everything else I would choke. But I did the face conference. Remember that?
Yeah.
I did that in 2019 before COVID, and I was on a stage with like the video camera. But I don't know, like I'm so used to like choking in my live demos that I'm kind of like okay with it. Like I don't get nervous anymore.
That's how
But
I am.
uh,
I realize I still get
my
to
demo,
sleep at night.
my demo last week, it was like my best demo last week. Like I'm actually going to keep painting it, maybe. But like normally my demos are like I just I'm mortified and I had to like kind of like stand by it for the week. But
Well, the problem is that these demos, they only give you 2 or 3 hours. I mean, how much can most of us do in 2 or 3 hours, especially someone like you or I, which are, I mean, I guess I'm making assumptions, but I'm not a fast painter because I paint in layers. I'm not an alla prima painter, and I guess you're sort of an alla prima. How would you define yourself? You're sort of alla
well, I would
prima.
say, I mean, I don't really know how to put it in a box. I mean, I do an
Yeah.
eboche, I do a transfer, I do an eboche, and
So
on and
that's
so
not alla
forth.
prima
But
then. Yeah.
it's not all a prima, but my form pass is opaque with the intention of finishing as you go. But the way so when I studied, like the finishing as you go was literal. Like you finished as you went. If you screwed up, like that, kind of like the drawing that I described earlier, it was
Yeah.
kind of like, okay, well, like paint it better next time. But I had no recourse for correction after I was done studying in the time frame I studied, because we did basically an impasto form layer over a wipeout. We didn't even do eboches or underpaintings at that time. Now I do an eboche, I do a form pass, I paint with the sort of expectation or the sort of standard that I'm going to finish as I go, meaning I'm going to paint it at the maximum of my ability that the materials prohibit or allow for at that time. Meaning there are times when the paint just lifts off or whatever it is.
Right.
And I literally like just the feedback from how my brushes are working, how the paint's sticking or not. I've just maxed out what I can do. And then of course I layer from there and I do a fat overlay, a little bit of medium, the next, first revision layer, and then more after. I tend to work like impasto and sort of with the finish as you go mentality until I finish the full face or the figurative elements. So like if it's figurative or has like some other flesh areas, then I add the other background fabric for context, and then I do a final revision layer on top of that. But my idea is that if I paint that first form layer like as good as I possibly can compared to, let's say, settling down here with the idea that I'm going to paint it later and fix it later. If I paint here, then my revisions go here. If I paint here thinking I'll fix it later, then my revisions only take me here. So it's really important that I paint at the maximum of my ability in that sort of impasto, sort of opaque form layer, if that makes any sense.
It does. But if you're doing a demo, you can't transfer a drawing. There's no time for that. You're
No.
not going to do any eboche. So how would you do a demo?
So in my demo last week, that's too embarrassing to show.
No, you got to show it.
Yeah.
Oh wait,
No.
you were going to tell me a story back then, and did you not tell me that? I was like, you have to tell me now. No, I don't. Oh, bummer. Do you remember?
Oh, what was it? It was something.
Dang it. Now I feel like I missed out on
I got
something.
out of it. I got out of it. I knew you would forget.
Dang it.
No, I don't know. Yeah, what was it? That's funny.
Yeah, I don't remember. Dang it. Well,
Yeah, no. But because we did like more of a figurative element, we drew on the canvas with diluted raw lumber paint. It's the same concepts. It's the same, shapes, tilts, proportions, comparative measurement.
So you just did a rough drawing with a wipeout method, and then more or less.
Well, like linear. I wouldn't say it was so much a wipeout. It was definitely linear.
Oh,
like
it was
drawing
linear.
lines with
Okay.
a small round brush. Yeah.
Okay.
But with diluted raw lumber paint.
And then you just sort of started with around the eyes, the triangle nose eyes in that area. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I don't know. I'm trying to think. Well, whatever. But like, yeah, no, I do different things right now. But essentially, that's it.
Well, that's a good segue, dude. This is our second podcast, and we're over 2 hours.
Yeah.
We got problems. We should just, yeah. All right, let's see. I'm going to look up your work now, because we've got to get to your work. We can't.
I have a bunch of paintings laying around too that I could show you. I don't know. Can you show nudity on here?
I have. Yeah.
You have? I don't know. Like I had like some tutorials that were like figurative, classical, and they got flagged on YouTube. I was hosting them there, even unlisted for Patreon, and they like kicked them off.
Yeah, I'll take my chances. I don't know how.
Well, you can bring up my work. I have paintings too if you want to talk about it.
I'm looking for you here. I typed in Scott Waddell and some kid's account came up, so I had to type Scott Waddell artist. All right, let's see. So what's best, your website or your Instagram? Probably both, because your Instagram's
Yeah.
mostly sort of eyes and demos,
Yeah.
which
I
we
mean,
talked
there's a
about last week why you do that,
you
which
can start
makes
on
it.
my Instagram. There's kind of an interesting one on my Instagram. If you want, I'll give you a little preview. I'm going to post to my next Instagram post, although this video will post after it. Let me go grab this painting, actually. Hold
Okay.
on. Actually, I brought it in here in case. So this is one right now that I'm painting.
All right, hold on. Let me get the screen changed.
And it'll be on my Instagram today.
That's
And
gorgeous, dude.
I haven't painted this piece. Don't ask me why.
That
I'm afraid
is
to add.
so foreign to me that you just painted right up to a corner like that.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I always leave like one of the temples like this. Anyway, this is gonna be
Why?
on my. I don't know. Like I don't know.
So
I
you're
don't
just
know.
gonna fill it in, just like another puzzle piece.
Yeah, I'll do it next, and then that'll be that. But I will tell you, this painting, mostly from my imagination. There was a photo reference of a model from a long time ago that I looked at, and then I stopped looking at, like as a sort of mostly for the drawing.
From imagination?
Yeah, and so this is. I will tell you, like I did a few. So I did this one. I'm doing this one now. I did this one.
Dude, that's gorgeous.
So this is a different painting I can talk about later, but this one right here. So this is interesting. Like this, forgive the crappy, inexpensive Jerry's Artorama frame, but I did this painting, and
wow,
there was something about this painting that I don't like. There's something so unnerving and unnatural about the eyes, and I did that from imagination too, in large part, based on like an original inspiration. And it like, there's something about. Sorry, there's dust everywhere. There was something about it that.
I think they're both gorgeous, but you're right. There's something about the first one.
It misses on the second one I just showed you that I did first, like misses. And then this one,
I would phrase it differently. If you had only showed me the second one, I'd be like, whoa. But if you put it next to the first one, holy, that's like a Bouguereau right there.
What I will say, because it's just, for me, is just like absurdly lower than a Bouguereau. But what I will tell you is that it was something about this. I'm kind of happy with it.
You should be
perfectly honest, despite my sort of inclination towards self-deprecation. I am happy with it. It feels like a heavy step in the direction I want to go, and I don't exactly know why, which is a little frustrating because I can't quite deconstruct it.
You can't deconstruct your own piece. That's the problem with working out of your head, because you don't know how you get there sometimes.
Well, I don't know. What I will say is I don't know what the difference really is between that one and the previous one.
Can you hold them both up?
Yeah. Let me pull this one out of the frame so it's closer. Hold on. And it's weird. And just to throw this little quick one in here, let me show you two others I did from imagination that are men.
Those are both from imagination too?
Yeah.
Dude, you are like the painter Kim Jong-gi, dude. That's incredible.
But I can't do anything out of that. Like if you wanted me to like put them on a motorcycle or anything like that, there's no chance.
It's because you painted so many heads.
I have so many templates. I have so many templates for noses, eyes, and cheeks under lighting conditions. But yeah, so there's something, I don't know how well we can see it. There's something, I don't know why.
Yeah, back it up a little bit. Let me think. Okay, no, I'm not going to say anything. I have a thought. I have a thought.
Please.
I don't know. Keep it up, though. Keep it up. I want to keep it up. I want to see your.
Okay. All right. Am I getting too much glare?
No. It looks good. I don't think it's the eyes.
Oh, really?
Well, there's two things. Dude, I shouldn't be telling you my opinion. You're a better painter than I am.
Oh my God! Please tell me.
No. Here's what I think.
I want to hear.
I think what it is about her is the girl on the right.
Wait. Okay, let's.
No, the one you like. The one you like.
Okay.
The one you like. Yes. That one is both idealistic, but also a convincing, really convincing proportions. This girl here, the space between her nose and her mouth relative to the scale of her nose, I think is what's detracting from it.
Oh, that's interesting. Wow.
because her nose is quite large and the space between the nose and her mouth relative to the width of her nose is quite short. So could a person look like that? Yes. But
Right, but it's a flag. It's a red flag.
yeah, of course a person could look like that, but it just feels less iconic. Where that one on the right is just, my gosh, this beautiful, I mean, it's like a icon of a beautiful woman, where the other one is just a very, very unique looking woman.
That's interesting. So, but tell me honestly, like, you don't think there's any, I agree with you. And now that I didn't even see it. And when you say it, I'm like, oh my God, you're right. But the eyes, you don't feel like they're, even if we can't put our finger on it, maybe you can, there's something unnerving about them.
Yeah, but you know how it is as a painter. I could be wrong, but you know how it is as a painter. Sometimes you think it's in one place and it's something else, almost
Yeah.
like it's almost like a proportional simultaneous contrast.
I agree, and
You
it's
know what I
like, I
mean?
think as a just a quick aside, as an instructor, it's like, you have to tell people, like, don't react to your first impulse, like the
Right.
first thing that you think is wrong, right? Collect data, collect information. And then the other thing too is, like, if you put together like 6 things that you might be wrong, this could be in the drawing phase, it could be in the form modeling phase, whatever it is, you might see 5, 6 things. Only correct the most salient, obvious thing wrong, and then reevaluate all the other things you thought were wrong. Because sometimes the context change when you shift to the most obvious thing, like, changes your perception of the other things, which
Yeah.
is one of the biggest reasons why you shouldn't jump around and overreact to things. It's like, calm down, collect data, 5, 6 problems, fix the most obvious one, and then reassess.
Yeah. Forgive me. I was gonna offer one more, and I can cut this if you want to, but
No, I don't. Are you
but the
kidding?
thing is, here's the thing.
Put it all in.
I can't even do what you do, so I feel pretentious
Hmm.
even.
Hmm.
But
I love it.
the nice one on the good one, the one that's really good.
Yeah.
That one you lumped the shadows of the lower jaw with the neck really nicely.
Oh yeah.
And so it feels a little more naturalistic. Where with the other one, the head, the shadows on the side of the face relative to the neck, they don't feel quite as unified. It feels maybe a little
Yeah.
dark under the chin. So the head feels a little more characterized, or like a caricature a little more.
Yeah,
But
for
I don't
sure.
know. But again, I'm looking through a camera too.
Well, that's true, but I mean, I think you can see those relationships, like, well
A little
enough to make
bit.
that claim.
But
Yeah.
honestly, dude, they're both unbelievable.
Well, but it's like, I your commentary is incredibly valuable to me, because I think, like, well, yeah, like, but I wasn't satisfied. I'm still not satisfied, so I want to take that next step forward. So
Yeah.
it's like what you just said, like, it's really interesting. Like, I love what you just said about the tonal relationships, because I see that when you say it. And then the other things, it was like, I was, like, those, like, just rabbit holes you go down, and just like how much time you burn nudging this to the left, to the right, up, down,
Yeah.
you take a
Yeah.
break, 3 days later you come back. I was burning time on those eyes. And you're like, yeah, no, the nose. I didn't look at that nose space once, like, after a certain point.
Right. Right.
And then you say it, and I'm like, you know,
Yeah. Who knows? Well, let me know if it even helped. I might be way off. I don't know.
I don't think I mean, well, I'm making it up. I have nothing to reference. I mean, I have
No,
there
yeah,
was
but
a
you're
model
looking
for
for a
this,
certain kind of magic, and me getting you there I might not be giving you the right advice. I don't know. Like I said, if you
well,
saw me do that, I don't think I could do, I certainly couldn't do the one that you like better. Holy crap, dude, that is gorgeous.
I,
You hit a home run on that.
I'm happy with it. Like, I feel good. Like yesterday, because I took a big break from it when I went to Scotland, and I came back, and like, the Instagram video I'm going to post today, which will be after your video, before your video post, but this is Thursday, the 26th. I'm going to post a video, and basically before Scotland, I had painted it up to like halfway the forehead, and no neck, and no,
Yeah.
very little hair, and I put in the rest of that stuff, and I'll be honest, like, I was like, whatever I'm after, it's hard for me to put a fine point on whatever it is I'm after, but it felt closer, and that felt good. And that might change, because I actually felt that a little bit with the previous one that I'm now negative about, and I want that. Like, I want the next one. I want to look back at this after the next one to be like, this one's not good anymore. Like, because I think that's the only real way that we can evaluate our progress, right? Because in the
Yeah.
moment we aren't satisfied because our expectation scales with our ability.
You know what impressed me the most about the men that you did? Because the women are more or less straight on, they're just tilted, but the men are 3/4 angle. And one of the things that I find difficult about making up faces, I mean, I can do it better than a layperson. I hope that should be that should be expected, but not like you're doing. And the thing that would be toughest for me on the 3/4 ones is dealing with the orbit of the eye and the structure of the eye in perspective, because they're not symmetrical once you turn 3/4. They look completely different from one another. And so my question is, are you drawing mostly on what you're used to seeing in 3/4, or are you building the eye from the inside out, or both?
So it starts with a template of like shape expectation, right? So I would say that like there is an oscillation, like a percentage oscillation between visual and conceptual, right? Like, so there's a visual database I have of shape expectation, like how the shape of a brow here, this tilt to this tilt to this tilt to this tilt might be visually, and how that space might be from this to sort of the tilt of the nose and the tilt of the glabella and so forth, right? And so there's a shape expectation, a proportional shape expectation. I don't really quantify or like, measure out in any real way, but it's like again, a database and an expectation, and sort of like a margin of like acceptability. Like, if I drew, if this, I'm 3/4 right now to your view, and if I put this edge out here, that'd be obviously too wide. And if I put it in here, that'd be obviously
Right.
too narrow. Right. I'm constantly working off of midline, a conceptual midline. So I'm constantly thinking about where this midline traverses the form and like the relative distances. And that accounts for some intuitive foreshortening without, going so far as measuring it out in any sort of strict sense. And so there is that sort of thing. Then there's the structural building. There's like, this is the frontal bone, this is the nasal bone, this is the zygomatic, the structural symmetry. Like I always play towards, I always lean so heavily into structural symmetry. Um, because my notion about symmetry, the rebuttal or the response you might get is that, well, people aren't symmetrical. And I'm like, yeah, well, your own ineptitude will account for the natural asymmetry. If aim for perfect symmetry,
No one's
right,
going to
and you'll fall
complain
short.
about perfect symmetry.
Nobody's going to complain about it,
No.
and your own ineptitude will factor in whatever natural degree of asymmetry there might be. And so I aim for 100% perfect symmetry.
But when you say symmetry, though, you mean it's symmetry 3-dimensionally, because it's not
Correct.
2-dimensionally symmetrical.
Correct. So it's like, okay, so like if I'm drawing, if you have this right here, right, and you have a tilt here that captures the top of the zygomatic, you have like angle here for the zygomatic process, one for the zygomatics. Maybe if there's something salient about the zygomatic, it's major or minor. You have the nasolabial fold, you have the inner eye socket here, you have the glabella, you have going up to the brow, the hood of the brow, so on and so forth, right? And there might be like some, minimal amount of information that I can indicate through tilts or whatever it is, or shape configuration. If there are shadow shapes, right? I try not to draw things I don't see, but I have certain essential structures that I try to pick out. And what I want to imply with, let's say, for example, okay, wait, no, other way. Okay, so whatever thing I put here, 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 I want the visual aggregate of that to imply a zygomatic that is visually similar to the shape that I define over here with the contour and other interior information. And so I want to imply a symmetry, like that were you to look at the
It's
same
symmetrical
angle,
in context.
it's symmetrical in context.
Right.
And so, and I think that that's really important. And in fact, I take that to the, and this kind of goes back to that notion earlier on about that feedback loop and how much rendering and modeling plays a role in the sort of development of drawing skill. Like I think about encoded in, God, why can't I remember this? Okay.
I know, it's so
I think
awkward.
about like whatever is encoded here is the same as this, right? In fact, I do this thing, and I don't know if you do this. Tell me if you do or don't. I'd be interested. Is like I will when I see this, I coordinate it with exactly where I think that would be here, and I want my gradation. Even though I work off the light source, so this might not be oriented to the light, I want the same.
Uh-oh, say that again. You cut out for a sec. I want the same what?
I want the same story told here. It's the language is different. This is line and this is gradation. I want the same story told there.
Interesting.
I want whatever I
I
communicate,
don't know that
whatever's encoded in my gradation here, I want it to imply the same exact contour as here.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think I do think in similar terms. I don't know that I've actually had that exact thought, but but in principle, I am thinking what you're saying is you're considering structure on both sides of the face and making sure that the structure is synonymous from one side of the face to the other.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like there was a point in time when I was like teaching at GCA, Colleen Berry was there, and I remember her talking about structural symmetry a lot, and she teaches structure there now. I think, I don't know how it plays out, but I know there's a structure competition still, and I think she's the judge of that and runs that program. But she talked a lot about structure, and that at whatever point in time, like really made me like think about structural symmetry and correlate and relate the two sides like deeply and profoundly when I work. And I would say that's a big part of me now constructing them from imagination is trying to assemble. And like I realize the information might be different, it might be encoded differently, whether I'm using a lot contour lines or gradations or sort of indicators on the inside. I'm basically constantly trying to grapple with that. So, and I'm always looking for trace evidence of particular structures. Like the eye socket is one of the most important ones. There's a guy, I can't remember his name, at the Florence Academy like 20 years ago, 22 years ago when I went. And gosh, I wish I knew his name. But I remember he'd always talk about how whenever he drew, he had like his secret skeleton with him, and he would like imagine the secret skeleton that he could pose in his mind. And I always sort of thought about that because it's kind of funny, but I always think about myself as having a secret skeleton, more importantly, a secret skull. And I think that's really helpful. And I'll tell you another thing that was really, really formative for me. Like I took a lot of anatomy classes. I took one at the Florence Academy, and Andrew Amaral, who runs Golden Gate Atelier, I think still, he taught one while I was there. That was great. I took one with Frank Percou at the Art Students League in his lecture hall, and that was great. Nothing really stuck for me. Eventually, like I got Paul Richet's book, which was my favorite, and I copied all the plates. I copied every single plate, like perfectly.
You mean you drew them, not photocopied?
I drew them.
Okay.
No, like I literally drew every plate.
Wait,
like,
what's this
order.
book?
You know, Paul Richet.
You talk about that maroon book? Wait, no, that's not Richet.
Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah, no, that's Richet. I'll make sure we're talking about it for anyone watching the right one. Yeah, this one.
What's it called?
Artistic Anatomy.
Oh yeah, I have that. Yeah. Okay. You copied every single plate in there?
Yeah, I did it. I did it over a summer, and it was after my studies with Jacob. And I was like, I think it was even after I started teaching at GCA, when I was doing these critiques where I was like, the bump there, like I like couldn't communicate anything about what was happening. I knew kneecaps. I'd heard of the forehead, but like. But like
I've heard of the forehead.
Yeah.
You wear a lot of hats. You don't see foreheads much.
Yeah, no, I don't. I'm a forehead denier. But what's past the forehead is what I deny. But I definitely started to get very self-conscious that I just didn't have the language for it. And so I went and I loved Paul Richet's book and his aesthetic. Like I thought his characterization of anatomy was just so beautiful and elegant. And so I was like, every time I take an anatomy thing, every time I do it, it's like I can't retain it. And so I literally, this was right. And like I took all these places, like everybody's like, take Frank Percou's class, take whatever. And then I just wouldn't hold on to it. And so I took Richet's book and I copied every plate. And then what I would do is every portrait, every figure, anything I was doing after that, my own studio, I would then draw the, because, in his book, like you're going to have like the pelvis head on, you're going to have it from profile, right? You're not going to have all these dynamic rotations. And so then based entirely on this sort of mentally scanned sort of documentation of all of his plates, I would then try to revisualize in his aesthetic and his characterization, the skeleton, the skull from the angle that my portrait is in. So if I'm doing somebody up like this, I would then try to draw a Richet skull in that angle. I would try to draw a pelvis
out of your imagination.
Out of my imagination. I've had this book open, but he didn't have an image that was at that rotation. So I'd have to like look at my model or I wouldn't do it when the model was there, but I'd have like my drawing up and then I'd have that. And then next to him, I would draw the pelvis at that rotation. Then I would draw the rib cage at that rotation. And for the skull, like the eye sockets became so important. And so it's like I lift out of like whatever stuff is happening there visually, right? Like whatever configuration of midtones, whatever it is, there are so many varying, shadow shape configurations you might have there. I would lift out the essentials that told the best story without being overly anatomical, without being like, overly linear and grotesque. I would try to lift out the essentials that most communicated the story of that eye socket. And then when I went to the other eye, I did the same one, and I could see them in perspective, at the angle they are on the skull in space, right? Because these two angles, these as planes, they face out like this. So I try to draw them in perspective for a 3/4 in a way that made sense. And a strong visualization of the eye socket alone, I think, is like just enormously beneficial.
I agree. And then I'm gonna do that. That's great advice. Here, let me show you something that's really cool. I think is fun. Hold on one second. This thing is check out this little guy.
Oh, that's awesome.
Okay, wait, let me. It's
Is
just.
it super accurate? It looks pretty detailed.
It's really nice. Yeah. Wait a minute. Yeah. It's so hard to get. It's just 3D
Oh,
printed.
that's so nice.
Isn't that a
That's
nice looking
so
skull?
good.
So
That
I
is nice.
lost the lower jaw, and I got to 3D print another one.
You
But
printed that?
yeah, dude, printer, man,
Can I
technology's
buy
so
one
great.
from you? Oh my God, that's
Yeah,
so
it's
awesome. Yeah.
and then I just
You have like
carried
a
it
resin
around.
printer?
I
What kind of
carried it
printer do you have?
around to practice drawing. Oh my gosh, you're right. This reverse thing is such a pain.
It's disorienting. Yeah.
Yeah, so I carried around for years on my keychain, and when I was
love
sitting in a
that. Yeah,
doctor's
yeah,
office, I'd screw around with this and start drawing at different angles, and it helps a lot.
yeah,
But I think what you're
yeah.
doing is even better because you're trying to visualize it. I think that really makes it sink in, I bet.
Yeah, I think that task of drawing the skull is awesome. Like I'm not saying it's better. I'm just saying that almost like an investigator. Like you know, I don't know. Like, did you ever watch the? Such a like. Did you ever watch The Wire on HBO?
I haven't, no.
It's such a 2015 question.
I haven't. I've never even had HBO.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's just such a like. But yeah, the why. There's this episode where like they were talking about what it's like being a detective in a crime scene, and like they're like you have to have like soft eyes, right? I don't know what it was, and I don't want to go too deep in that, but there's something about like the overwhelming amount of information that we're faced with as visual artists, especially when you're working from the live model. It's like, where do you begin? Like, first of all, you're awestruck. You're awestruck.
Yeah.
Right. And then by the beauty of it. And then trying to sort of, parse that out to just sort of disassemble it to where you can even begin reconstructing it is crazy. And so I feel like I take on that sort of soft eyes, like I'm a detective on a scene, like I see the shell casing. I'm not like counting the blades of grass, right? I'm looking to what's important, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, and that really taught me, like the skull taught me to find what was important, to lift that out.
That's a great analogy. Yeah, I like that. All right, we've got to look at your work, or we're gonna have to have an episode 3 because I got a doc's appointment in 10 minutes.
Oh my God, I have to pick up my kids at 4, which is in 20 minutes my time, so I'm in the same boat.
Yeah, this is crazy, dude. You were way too easy to talk to. All right, let's get back to your page here. So obviously, we're not gonna have a lot of time to look at your work, but everyone just needs to go to Chris Waddell Artist on Instagram or Chris Waddell.
Chris?
That's my buddy who's a sculptor. Sorry, Scott Waddell.
I know him. He taught at GCA with me.
Oh, you know Chris?
I mean, we know each other. I wouldn't say we got to know each other well. He's super cool, but yeah, we overlapped. And he worked for the movie studio, right? That did Box
I think he
Trolls?
still does. I think he still works for a movie studio.
Badass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I always get you two mixed up because I know you both.
There's only 2 Waddells on planet Earth right now.
And both artists.
So
it's crazy.
Yeah, I know.
All right. And then what is it? Scott Waddell, fineart.com. So, but let's just go ahead and.
I don't have a ton of artwork on there. Like I said, I kind of don't have like that kind of page because it's all funnel to my. Oh, I got to take that off. That's over.
Come paint with me.
I'm
so bad about keeping my website updated.
Dude, I gotta update that photo. I looked so much better there. That's 10 years ago. Look how buff I was.
Well, yeah, you were working. Well, I can't tell how buff you are now. Were you working out a lot then?
I work out now, but I mean, I had, probably more testosterone back then, so it was easier.
Oh man. Well, you look good, but I can only see your head, so I can't see a lot of muscle in your face. But all right, let's see. Where is your art on this page, dude?
I don't have it like it's all like my videos. Like
Oh, okay. So let's go to
yeah,
Instagram then.
go to
That's the only
Instagram,
option
yeah.
we got. Okay, but what about your multi-figure and stuff? How are we going to see
Yeah, I
that?
don't. All right, here I'll show you some. Okay, you want to see one like so? I don't know. Oh, I'll show you this one. Like, remember that one that I showed you? I'm working on it now. Like the one of Saint George, the one with the dragon.
Yeah.
I showed you last time the studies of like the hands and stuff. Am I frozen?
I can hear you, but you bounce around a little. Oh, there we go.
Okay, so some hands, and then I was doing.
Wait, there was a horse head on there. It looked like.
Yeah. So this is the final composition design. I'd done a number of them, but then you'll see the dragon's head is right there.
Oh yeah.
I was doing some conceptual sketches.
Yeah,
I did
showed
a
us
lot
that
of
last
them
week.
So I'm painting the main painting right now, and I'm not that far into it, but you can see like the head is right here.
Is that made up?
No, it's in part from a reference, and then largely made up from there. But like, so it doesn't look anything like the person.
Okay. So what if you can make stuff up as good as you can? Why use reference? Is it just
because I can't make up more than a head?
Oh, okay.
I can't make up more than a head. So here's one that I did a long time ago, and this is kind of interesting. So this one is funny because
that's gold.
I'm
dude.
changing it. I'm changing it now. God,
there's nowhere online to see that.
Yeah, you can find it on Instagram. Like,
it's just way down.
It's just way down. But this is funny because, like, and I hope he's not watching, but there's a model I used to work with. I painted this a long time ago.
Yeah.
and as a bald man, I can say this because I'm talking about my own kind. He was bald, or he is bald, presumably, unless he went to Turkey. He's bald, and then he's, I get it. Like, I like Oreos. He's a little bit like round in the form, let's say.
So you made him with hair and jacked?
He had no shirt on. But like, my problem was I had this hanging in my living room because I really like this painting for a number of reasons. And oh, wrong way. And so I just felt like recently I was like, you know what, like, not to like sort of shame my own, but I was like, compositionally, it would just work better with hair. So I added hair, and I added a giant.
Dang, that's convincing hair.
So I'm still working on this.
How did you add the sheet? Did you drape it over a model, or did you drape it over a mannequin?
No, I made that up. You just get a bunch of raw umber and white, you mass it in, you paint a few folds, and then you get a fan brush and fade it in, and then you're done. That's fabric. It's easy.
How to be an artist by Scott Waddell.
Yeah.
Buy a fan brush. And
I just use flesh tint and raw umber and then blur everything together. You're done.
Yeah, that's painting. Don't bother registering for his classes. He just gave you the secret to being a great artist.
Let's cut that out. I need money.
All right, so let's go back to I want to look at I want to go down, way down. Man, oh my gosh, you have so many posts. All right, here's one.
Yeah, that's a whole painting. It's
Dude,
that painting
so
is
do you
like,
always work with short handle brushes?
No, I use long handle brushes, but I still hold them like it's a short handle. Like I choke up on them like a baseball bat.
No kidding.
Yeah.
And that
I hold them my brushes like that.
I've noticed that 2-finger thing, like chopsticks.
Oh, that's what. Yeah, I hold my pencils like I'm strange the way I hold things.
And it's working for you.
That's a nice ear.
That's incredible.
I like that hand too. That's pretty good.
It is, but yeah, it's all pretty good. I'm gonna say everything on here.
Pretty good. It's all acceptable.
This is unbelievable.
That was a fun. So that one, I think in that folder, you probably don't have it handy. That was a big commission I did. That head is life size.
Oh wait,
and there's a giant whale behind him.
Wait, let me look. Wait,
paintings on Instagram.
You sent me a folder with work.
There.
You sent me a folder with work a couple weeks ago that I should. Is that why you? That's right. Look, that folder. I forgot about the folder, man. I'm sorry.
No, but hold on. No, I don't care. Look at that one. Look at the one that you just clicked on up there. Right. Go up one.
Okay.
Up one. Yeah. To the no. Then.
All right. Sorry.
Click out of that.
That one.
No. Close it to the, so we see the tiles again.
Okay.
Okay, there's a drawing to the left of it, and then above that that's the same painting where you see the orc right there. That might be the whole painting, or that's a part of it. So it's much wider,
Wow,
but
dude, look at that
he's
whale.
life size. Like he's huge. Like that painting was huge, and that was like a commission from somebody that lived in Nantucket.
That is too cool.
The arm looks all truncated and weird, but I do like aspects of it. Like, it's got things that I like and other things that's like, God, well, I'm not going to do that again.
I think it's gorgeous. Look at that beautiful figure. Let me see, can we fast forward here? Oh, it's not much longer. I didn't realize you were going high speed. I thought that was your normal speed.
It is my normal speed, yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah, it really does blow my mind how you work, though. It's so different than how I work.
Yeah, but if you look at that forehead right there, I don't remember, this was a long time ago, but you notice how I did that ébauche first, like, but I think I do that in like a session, like where it's all wet still. So you see I'm painting more opaquely.
Yeah.
So I lay it like, so it's not exactly like window shading always, like we sometimes think of. And sometimes
It
like
doesn't
even
matter,
recently,
though. I mean, it's like, who cares if it was window shading? It matters the finished product, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned transparencies with black skin. How did you handle this one?
So I will tell you, like, when I do black skin, darker value ranges, generally speaking, like I go ahead and prepare for a 2-layer pass.
Oh.
And I just basically try to do like a more opaque, like form pass looking ébauche, knowing I'm going to do another layer because I just can't get the opacity. That was really old. That was like right after my studies with Jacob. So that's from when I was in my 20s.
Let me go to the top then. So we're looking at newer work.
Oh, wait, go down. You want to see? Like, I'll show you. Hold on. So that's my ex-wife there with my kids. Go up one. There's a little 3D printed head, and then keep going up. I just want to show you, like,
this one.
No, keep going up. Right there, there's a people, like the actual photo. That's me at the height of my. That's when I used to really work out a lot.
Holy crap! Yeah, you're jacked, dude.
Yeah, not anymore. But that was those are the days when I had to like eat an ungodly amount of calories.
Yeah, you're jacked. God, dude, these are all so amazing. Let me just go to the top so it's your most recent work. Because if it were me, I'd be like, don't show the old work.
Wait, hold on. There's one that I think this is one of my first, like, there's the one that I just showed you. If you see down to the lower left, almost all the way over the eye, is the one I showed you, and you might be able to see the bald version. No, down one and to the right one. That's the painting I was just showing you before. Like, this is before I added hair. See?
Oh, yeah.
That guy has hair now.
Wow, it looks completely different.
And I added stigmata on his hand.
Wow. Beautiful portrait right there. Jeez. So is this about the way you paint, or is this for camera? As far as your temp, like your speed, your.
Oh no, I mean, I don't think, like, I'm always recording, so there's no like I'm recording now, I'm gonna paint differently, but it doesn't mean that I don't lift out the more interesting shots, like where I'm laying down paint. But I'm totally oblivious to the camera and the camera.
So this is
recording.
Completely natural.
I'm gonna lift out more interesting clips, but there's no part where I'm like, let me dash off like
I just find it so fascinating because that's one of the fun things about this podcast. I mean, I don't get a lot of shots like that of people painting without being concerned for the camera. A lot of times people just do a little stroke here and there while they're recording.
Yeah. The master stroke.
But but it's just so interesting to see someone like yourself who's such a master and watch them use the brush and have it be so foreign to me. Like, it could not be more different than the way I paint. And again, you're a master. That's not a critique. It's just fascinating. It's like, there's a lot more than one way to kill a cat. Hey, thanks for posting that, by the way. Look at those. You are king of eyes, man.
That one.
Shoot, you're frozen again. Hold on. I think you're moving now.
Oh, me?
Yeah, I think you're good. I think you could probably talk now. You're a little broken up, but.
Yeah, I wonder why.
I don't know. Yeah, this is the made up one? No. Wait, this looks just like the one, but it's 3/4. It looks like the
No,
one you
no,
made up.
that's okay. Okay, yeah. So this takes place more or less between the first one I showed you and then the next one. So this was actually one in between.
You made this up too.
That there is a reference that I was inspired by, but I would say that started me on the drawing, and I don't think I looked at it during the painting much at all. I can show you the reference. I'll send it to you in private because I have it on my Patreon.
Yeah, this is.
And that one's a little older. That one is one where I turned it into a tutorial called Painting an Idealized Portrait. So I was basically trying to take what I was observing and be like, I'm going to totally reinterpret it. So I think this was like maybe 2 years ago. This one started me on the road towards imagining them more and more and more, because I was like, I'm going to look at something and then I'm going to basically consciously reinterpret it. And this one was the gateway into me making forms up more from imagination. But this one's tighter than the ones I'm doing now.
That eye just looks wet. Only a guy who mastered highlight application could make an eye look that wet. That's insane, dude. You know what looks fun about the way you paint is it looks kind of like you're drawing with paint in a way.
So I don't have any idea where this comes from. So it's funny how like little bits like this sometimes are influential, even if you don't know if they're true or accurate or where they come from. It's like there's these things that get said to you. I don't know if you had this experience when I was studying. Oh, it's my daughter. Hold on. I'm going to take this live.
Okay.
Hey, I know I'm running a little late. Okay. I was just asking. No, I just had some stuff come up. I'm on an internationally famous podcast right now.
Yeah, well said.
But I'll be there in a minute. Okay. If you want, like, we're almost done, but you can run over to Publix if you want. All right. Yes, I'll send you Cash App. All right. I'll be there soon. Bye.
That's got to be a daughter.
Oh my God. How'd you know?
My son's never asked me for money. Only my daughter.
Yeah, I know, right? I can't even give my son money. He's like, I don't need it. Yeah, I don't know what we were talking about, but
well, I probably should let you go so you can get your daughter, and I got to run too. I got to run to my doctor's appointment. But dude, I am literally, if you're down with it, I want to have you back again. Maybe in a group.
You know what would be fun? Like, I don't know if you do this kind of thing, but like when we kind of, do you ever use like a digital tablet, like a Wacom tablet, or like where you
I have a massive one right in front of me. It's 32 inches. Yeah.
So I don't know how this would work, and if you would even be down. I'll just pitch this to you live, and you can just completely ignore it and cut this out. You know what would be fun is if we were able to go into, let's say, a Van Dyke painting or a Rembrandt painting
like this,
and go and point to things and be like, I think this might be like, not that we would be right or wrong because we're just two opinions, but that could be kind of an interesting thing that I think about doing sometimes. I did a whole video on YouTube of where I was kind of analyzing a Bouguereau, and kind of what we were talking was one that I saw in real life here in a museum, and I've looked at a lot and I've copied, and I was doing exactly what we were talking about, like tracking the eye socket and things like that, and saying like, I think that his brushstroke goes this way to convey this fold overlapping this.
Let's do that. Let's do that. Right? This is literally on my Wacom right now, and I was actually going to, while we were talking earlier, but we moved on. I was gonna illustrate for you what I mean by that ramp along here, but because I can see it on him for sure. Let's do that. Let's do that. I'm gonna send you the calendar, and let's get back. It's gonna be just a Jeff and Scott chat about different artists and kind of analyze.
So cool.
That'd be sick.
I'm in.
Let's do it. That'd be so much fun. All right, man. Hey, yeah, you got to go pick up your daughter. So tell her I said sorry. It was great talking to you, though, man. So much fun.
It was awesome.
Yeah. So I'll send you that calendar. We'll be in touch. Thanks
Man.
again.
I'll see you soon.
Have a great one. Bye. Take care, man. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Undraped Artist Podcast. If you enjoyed it, subscribe. And if you could, leave a comment or review. That really helps the channel. Please share the show with your friends, and if you're feeling generous, consider a monthly donation at theundrapedartist.com. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you next week.